Chapter 467. Shocking. Yen Lide's heart was truly shaken at this moment. Li Zixuan was a greenhorn, but he was able to settle the matter in an instant. His actions were clear about rewards and punishments, and he was both firm and soft. His methods were extremely shrewd and ruthless. Even Yen Lide, who had lived half his life as an old loach in the officialdom, had to admit that he was impressed. What surprised Yen Lide the most was that from Li Zixuan's arrangements, he saw a trace of a soldier's swift and decisive style. Although Yen Lide was a civil official, he had experienced 3 dynasties and had also encountered chaotic times. He was very clear about the nature of the generals in the army. When Li Zixuan spoke just now, his temperament was like a general lecturing his soldiers. This was hard for Yen Lide to accept. How could a 14 to 15-year-old young man have the ability to lead an army into battle? Yen Lide shook his head and hypnotized himself in his heart. Illusion, this must be an illusion. In fact, this wasn't an illusion. Li Zixuan wanted to use military means to manage the construction team of more than 10,000 people. The punishment he mentioned wasn't to deliberately make things difficult for these farmers. He also didn't have any intention of discriminating against them. In his previous life, his father would go to the city to work when he wasn't working. The people in the city called them migrant workers. Now, this group of people was in a similar situation to his father in his previous life. Of course, he wouldn't deliberately make things difficult for these men who used their hands, labor, and even life's potential to support a family. The reason why he proposed these punishment measures was mainly because his father had said in his previous life that there were many crafty people who slacked off and worked for free. Another important reason was that the construction team he recruited was unusually large. If he didn't set up a perfect management system, the construction site would become a mess. Everyone wouldn't know what they were supposed to do, or whether they were doing the same work as others. In this way, the construction speed of Yanhuang College would be at a snail's pace. Only by properly organizing the division of labor could everyone be used to their fullest potential. Only by having a reasonable reward and punishment system could everyone be motivated to work. Yen Xiaoning looked at Li Zixuan with a trace of resentment and a trace of complexity. He was resentful because Li Zixuan had thrown the difficult task of being the head of the construction site to him. One must know that being a qualified general was far more difficult than being a low-level soldier. This was because a general often had to consider all aspects of the situation and make the best use of people. God knows how much brainpower he would have to use in order to assign tasks to these 10,000 people. Although there were a lot of people and craftsmen in front of him, as the saying goes, a strong dragon cannot defeat a snake in its old haunts. This was Plum Village. He had the support of Second Master Lu and the rest. Why would he be afraid of these people rebelling? Therefore, he nodded and said, "Okay, I'll try my best. If there's anything I don't understand, I'll ask you." "Ha! You're a good brother. When Yanhuang College is completed, I'll treat Brother Xiaoning to a good drink." Li Zixuan laughed. Then, he pulled Yen Xiaoning over and whispered, "Xiaoning, try to use the young men from Plum Village and Han Village for the captains and team leaders in the construction team. They're all trustworthy and will be on your side. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that there are outstanding leaders among the others. You can promote them as you see fit. As for the team leader and deputy team leader, you'd better use some experienced craftsmen. Other than being able to lead the team well, they can also give you some useful advice. It's best not to put people from the same village into a team because they're likely to group up. There are only 2 results of grouping up. One is that the group becomes more diligent, and the other is that the group becomes lazier. However, the latter is more likely. As for the law enforcement team, you can do as you see fit. You can also go out and recruit other people. Yes, little Xian's advice is very pertinent. Ning you must remember it. Yen Lide stroked his beard and looked at his son as he reminded him. Yes, I know, Dad. Yen Xiaoning nodded. Hey, Xiaoning, you have to leave a team leader position for me. I must participate in the construction of Yen Wang College. I want to be the team leader. After Li Tai eavesdropped on the three people's whispering, he suddenly pulled Yen Xiaoning and said. Chapter 468. I want to be a regiment commander. Li Tai's words really scared Yen Lide, Yen Xiaoning, and the others. As for Li Zixuan, he was thunderstruck. Your Highness, this is not appropriate. As a prince, how can you do such a lowly thing? His Majesty will definitely not agree. Yen Lide frowned and tried to persuade him. If his son dared to be so mischievous, he would have beaten him up long ago. However, this person was Li Tai, so he could only use his mouth to persuade him patiently. A lowly thing? May I ask Minister Yen, when did hard work become a lowly thing? Li Tai seemed to be prepared for this. He cupped his hands at Yen Lide and said seriously, Qinke has been studying engineering with you for several months. Engineering is the study of engineering. If I don't experience engineering, how can I call myself a disciple of engineering? As for my father, I will personally report to him. Yen Lide was silent. In fact, he regretted what he said just now. If he said that engineering was a lowly thing, wouldn't he be scolding himself? However, to let a prince personally participate in the construction of a project, this was somewhat unreasonable no matter what. Since your Highness has made up your mind, I have nothing to say. It's better to leave the trouble to Li Er. Yen Lide thought in his heart. Li Zixuan raised his eyebrows and looked at Li Tai in surprise. He didn't think that this little fatty would be able to speak such a serious truth. It really made him look at him in a new light. He had a bright future ahead of him. Li Tai was delighted, but Li Zixuan interrupted at an inappropriate time. Qinke, if you want to experience engineering, that's fine. However, you don't have any experience. I'm afraid you won't be able to take on the position of a regiment commander. I'll give you the position of a captain first to train yourself. This kind of practical training will also be of great benefit to you. Li Tai was suddenly very depressed. He just helped Li Zixuan, but Li Zixuan exposed him without mercy. He really didn't give him any face at all. However, Li Zixuan's last two lines made his eyes light up. Putting everything else aside, Li Tai's cultural attainment was still very high. Knowledge on paper is ultimately shallow. I'll have to do it personally. Good. 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 Every word you said is a gem. I've learned a lot. After seriously savoring it for a long time, Li Tai cupped his hands at Li Zixuan and said solemnly. Yen Lide also glanced at Li Zixuan in surprise. He never expected Li Zixuan to be so proficient in the Tao of poetry, to be able to recite such a beautiful line. Ha ha. That's fine. Xiaoning, you can lead them and start working. Uncle Wang has the name list of all of them. You can see if you can divide them into groups. Uncle Yen and I will help you draw up an overall progress plan for the construction of the academy. You can use it as a reference in the future. Li Zixuan went forward and patted Yen Xiaoning's shoulder, urging him to hurry up and work. Oh, okay, father, I'll go first. Yen Xiaoning nodded his head and greeted his father. Go. Do well, don't embarrass the Yen family. Even if I'm busy with work in the future and can't come often, your second uncle will come often to assist you. Every father had the heart to see his son become a dragon. Yen Lide was no exception. He really hoped that his son could grow up quickly after going through this big project. Although he wouldn't be as monstrous as Li Zixuan, he must be able to take charge of things independently. I understand. Yen Xiaoning cupped his hands and brought Wang Zhong, Second Master Lu Lijing, and Han Lijing to divide the construction corps into groups. Li Zixuan, on the other hand, took the floor plan of the Yen Wang Academy and followed Yen Lide to a temporary pergola. This simple and crude shed became their temporary combat command post. Li Zixuan was very happy when Yen Lide said, "Even if I'm busy with work in the future and can't come often, your second uncle will come often to assist you." Yen Lide's construction skills weren't much worse than Yen Lide's. With the help of the Yen family, the construction of Yen Huang College would be completely stable. It's time to eat. It's time to eat. At noon, a group of hundreds of old, weak women and children carried fragrant dishes to Yunshan Mountain. The workers' first meal at the construction site began. It wasn't easy to cook for more than 10,000 people. Almost all the women in Han Village and Plum Village who knew how to cook were invited to help in the kitchen. Yunshan Mountain didn't even have a stove, so naturally, they couldn't cook here. Therefore, this support group brought the food up from Plum Village at the foot of the mountain. Anyway, it was summer now, so they weren't afraid that the food would get cold on the way. Leaders of each group, get your people to line up properly. Don't look like the reincarnation of a starving ghost who hasn't eaten for years. It wasn't easy to cook for more than 10,000 people. Similarly, it wasn't easy to arrange for more than 10,000 people to eat together. Fortunately, Yen Xiaoning used the whole morning to divide the more than 10,000 people into groups, teams, and group. Now it was much more convenient to command. Yes, Commander Yen. The 5 leaders of the construction corps were Hu Hanyun, Second Master Lu, Chao Xiaofu, Gong Minyong, and Ni Taifeng. Needless to say, Hu Hanyun and Second Master Lu had a certain amount of influence in Han Village and Plum Village. Moreover, they had helped others to build houses before. Chao Xiaofu and Gong Minyong were the craftsmen sent by the Ministry of Works this time. They had rich construction experience and had worked on many big projects under Yen Lide. Moreover, they were very familiar with Yen Xiaoning. As for Ni Taifeng, he was the representative of the elite craftsmen in Strange Pavilion Workshop. When the workshop still belonged to the Yen family, Ni Taifeng had worked in the workshop. Of course, Yen Xiaoning knew him. Overall, Yen Xiaoning's arrangement was quite reasonable. After the 50 teams were lined up, the support group started to get food for the workers. The fragrance of the meat could be smelled from afar. Everyone couldn't help but gulp and salivate. Gulp! What a delicious fragrance of meat! Boss is really generous. Ma Sanqiang, haven't smelled such a wonderful fragrance of meat in a long time. Gulp! Just for such fragrant meat, our group can't be the last in the future. Otherwise, won't we have no meat to eat? Yes. We can't be the last in the future. Tisk. Ignorant. Who in Han Village can't afford to eat meat now? We all have a meal every few days. Ha ha. Same for Plum Village. Amidst the envious and boastful voices of the crowd, the workers took their food one by one. Now there was no canteen on Yunshan Mountain, let alone tables and chairs. Most of these people were rough people and didn't care about the red tape. They just squatted under the shade of the tree and enjoyed their delicious lunch in groups of 3 to 5. Young master, why are you here to line up too? Please stand in front of me. As the leader, Hu Hanyun didn't have any special privileges. After he arranged everything, he came to line up. However, he realized that Li Zixuan was actually behind him. He quickly turned around and said, Chapter 469. Haha. Uncle Hu, you can line up. I'm not in a hurry to eat, so I'll line up slowly. And you guys, don't worry about me. Line up in your own line. Eating is the most important thing in the world. No one is more honorable than anyone else when it comes to eating. Li Zixuan waved to Mr. Hu, and then he saw the people in front of the line looking at him hesitantly. He hurriedly said to those people in a kind manner. At this moment, Li Zixuan could be described as kind and amiable. He was totally different from when he was lecturing the people above. This made the craftsmen feel a little confused, but at the same time, they felt a sense of familiarity. The most direct manifestation was that when the foreigners in the line passed by Li Zixuan after getting their food, they were no longer trembling with fear like before. Instead, they would smile and say hello, sir, or hello, boss. This was also the effect that Li Zishuan wanted. As the saying goes, relax to a certain extent. Blindly making others afraid of you would not work. That would also affect the efficiency of work. Li Zishuan did not deliberately eat at the construction site to put on a show. He did not need to put on a show. The reason why he stayed for lunch was that, firstly, he wanted to see how the food at the construction site was and whether it needed to be adjusted. Secondly, he had to continue to discuss the detailed plan of the construction of the academy with Yen Lide in the afternoon. It was not worthwhile to go back in the middle of the day. At this moment, the sun in the sky was the hottest time of the day. Carrying the food, Li Zishuan came to the shed. In the morning, the people below would naturally bring in tables and stools. The shed was now fully equipped. Li Zishuan came to the table and sat down. Opposite him, Li Tai, the little fatty, was staring at the big fat meat in the bowl. If it was said that Li Zishuan stayed for lunch because of the situation, then Li Tai stayed for the sake of putting on a show. The little fatty had just become the captain of the 8th team of the construction corps in the morning and could be considered as Old Hu's subordinate. He wanted to set an example and raise the recognition of the people below him. Li Tai's royal education taught him that if a superior wanted to capture the hearts of the people, he had to share weal and woe with his subordinates. In this aspect, his old man, Li Er, had perfected his military career in the early years. Thus, all the generals of the great Tang were loyal to Li Er. However, Li Tai was not Li Er. This little fatty was used to living a luxurious life since he was young. He had very strict requirements for food. In this aspect, even Li Zishuan admitted defeat. Otherwise, how could he be so fat? Now, it was his first time eating such a big pot of food. Eating such fat meat, just looking at it made him feel nauseous. How could he eat it? Ha ha! What? You can't eat it? I told you to go back and eat, but you insisted on staying and asking for trouble. Let's see what you can do now. There are no restaurants in this wilderness, and your first team's mission in the afternoon is very important. Let's see how you can order the people below to work when you're hungry. Li Zishuan glanced at Li Tai, who was in a dilemma, and said sarcastically. Although he himself didn't like to eat fat meat, he was more witty. When he had just finished eating, he gave all the fat meat in the bowl to Old Hu. These fat meat may be inferior food to people like him and Li Tai, but for people like Old Hu, who were at the bottom of the labor force, this was top-quality food. Not only did it taste good, but it also made them hungry. If you used lean meat to exchange with them for fat meat, they wouldn't be too happy. Who said I can't eat it? F***ck, little Xian, you actually gave me special treatment. Why is there no fat meat in your food? Li Tai was about to argue, but when he saw that there was no fat meat in Li Zishuan's bowl, only minced meat and vegetables, he immediately called out Li Zishuan for giving special treatment. Bullshit. You brat, there must be something wrong with your eyes. I just don't have fat meat in my bowl. Aren't the other dishes the same as yours? When did I give you special treatment? Li Zishuan couldn't wait to drag this brat over and stuff him into his bowl. He glared at him and said in exasperation, "Oh, you should have said so earlier. Then I'll throw away this fat meat and eat vegetables like you." Li Tai didn't feel embarrassed at all because he misunderstood others. This guy thought that Li Zishuan threw away the fat meat in his bowl. He propped up his fat body and prepared to go out and throw away the meat. Li Zishuan said angrily, "Stop! Which eye of yours saw me throw away the meat? I only gave the meat to Uncle Hu. It's fine if you don't like to eat some dishes, but you can't waste food. The food you don't like to eat is a delicacy in the eyes of many people, but you would rather throw away the meat than share it with others. How hateful! Wine and meat stinks at the Vermilion Gates, frozen bones lie on the road. This is exactly what a prince in the palace who doesn't understand the suffering of the common people." This was the first time Li Zishuan said such harsh words. It was also the first time Li Tai was reprimanded by someone other than Li Er. Li Tai was so angry that his eyes turned red. If the person in front of him wasn't Li Zixuan, he would have drawn his sword and killed him. At this moment, his heart was filled with anger and grievance. Yes, it was grievance. His nature wasn't bad. He just didn't think of this method of giving away the fat meat. Wine and meat stinks at the Vermilion Gates, frozen bones lie on the road. These two lines of the poem also gave Li Tai a great shock. He clenched his teeth and didn't say a word. His face was green and white. He wanted to fly into a rage, slam the table, and fight it out with Li Zixuan. But subconsciously, he felt that Li Zixuan was telling him this for his own good. Moreover, he didn't want to be the main character of Wine and Meat Stinks at the Vermilion Gates, frozen bones lie on the road. He didn't want future generations to think of him, Li Tai, as a prince. If that happened, wouldn't his reputation go down in history? What? You don't agree? You think what I said is wrong? Good. Then go out and take a look. See if the fat meat you threw away is the supreme delicacy in the eyes of those craftsmen. Li Tai's face changed between green and white. Li Zixuan didn't care and continued to reprimand him. He had made up his mind to be a strict teacher today. After interacting with Li Tai for so long, Li Zixuan's attitude towards the little fatty changed from being cautious at the beginning to keeping a distance. Later on, Li Tai pretended to be his disciple, and he only taught him in the name of a teacher. In the end, Li Tai accepted him wholeheartedly and wholeheartedly taught him. During this time, Li Zixuan naturally had a very deep understanding of Li Tai's personality. This little fatty's nature wasn't bad. He was just a little arrogant. In these few months of interaction, Li Zixuan felt Li Tai's intelligence, Li Tai's craftiness, Li Tai's arrogance, Li Tai's sincerity sometimes, and Li Tai's funny joy sometimes. Li Zixuan felt that Li Tai was just a smart child who hadn't been completely spoiled yet. Chapter 470. Yes, strictly speaking, Li Tai was really just a child who hadn't been completely spoiled. Anyone who was born into a family like Li Tai's, who was talented and intelligent, and who was deeply doted on by the current emperor, would have a heart of pride. It could be said that if they were in Li Tai's shoes, 99% of people wouldn't do better than Li Tai. Moreover, Li Tai was sincere towards the people he approved of. Compared to those who put on a good face to everyone, but secretly schemed and plotted, Li Tai was much better. Li Zixuan's heart had always been tangled and conflicted about Li Tai. According to the trajectory of history, Li Tai was just a failed product in the struggle for imperial power, and so was his brother Li Chengqian. Li Zixuan didn't plan to get too close to Li Er's sons from the start. He didn't want to participate in the complicated struggle for the throne, and he didn't want to become cannon fodder in other people's political struggles. But man proposes, God disposes. Moreover, man wasn't a plant, so how could he be emotionless? Under various coincidences, his relationship with the two brothers, Li Tai and Li Chengqian, became closer and closer. Moreover, after interacting for so long, he found that Li Chengqian wasn't as sinister, ruthless, disloyal, unfilial, or even a homosexual as the history books said. Li Tai also wasn't as arrogant and conceited as the history books said. These two brothers treated him, as a friend, with sincerity and true nature. Li Zixuan's heart gradually wavered. He didn't know if the history books were wrong, or if Li Tai and Li Chengqian's shortcomings were completely reflected in the later stages of their personality changes. If it was the latter, then Li Zixuan didn't know if he should rescue these two brothers. Later on, when Li Zixuan proposed Gong Shui, Li Tai immediately became one of the staunch supporters of Gong Shui. After that, Li Tai's performance was very satisfactory. Only then did he completely treat Li Tai as his true disciple, and planned to train him with all his might in the future. Since he had decided to take in Li Tai as his disciple, Li Zixuan naturally would not allow the little fatty and Li Tai to turn against each other in the future. He wanted to change Li Tai's fate, he wanted to change history. But in order to do this, he had to first change Li Tai's life values and get rid of some of Li Tai's shortcomings, which were also his weaknesses. Therefore, when it was time to criticize severely, he had to stand up and be a strict teacher. If Li Tai fell out with him because of this, then Li Zixuan could only say that they were not destined to be master and disciple. Bang! After struggling for a while, Li Tai slammed his chopsticks heavily on the table, and then he left without saying a word. Not sure if he really went to look at the workers outside or if he was angered by Li Zixuan's words and decided to quit. Li Zixuan did not chase after him. He didn't even look outside the door. Taoists practiced following one's heart, governing by doing nothing, and letting nature take its course. If Li Tai really quit because of this, or even quit gong shui, Li Zixuan could only express regret. He definitely would not kneel down and beg Li Tai to change his mind. He spread gong shui out of interest, not for his own benefit. Without gong shui, he could still live a simple life. But logically speaking, Li Zixuan felt that with his understanding of Li Tai would most likely not give up his initial ideals and pursuit. He believed in his own judgment. Ha ha. Smells good. I didn't expect to come here to work. Not only is the salary high, but the food is also so good. It's almost the same as our family's New Year's meal. Oh. Who said it wasn't? TSK, such delicious meat. If it weren't for the boss's rule that we have to stay at the construction site at night, I would want to bring these back home for my wife and children to eat. Sigh. Yes. My eldest child hasn't eaten meat for half a year. We can't eat such delicious meat even during the new year. Sigh. I don't know if the boss is recruiting children. My son is taller than me, and his strength is almost as strong as mine. It's just that he's too skinny. It would be great if the boss could recruit him. Just for every meal with meat, it's worth it even if the salary is reduced by half. Haha. Wu Lauer, you really know how to scheme. Sigh, I heard that the villagers of Plum Village and Han Village can eat meat every few days. I don't know if it's true. Of course it's true. Didn't you see it when we came over this morning? The children here are much fatter than the children in our village. Also, look at their houses. Most of them have been renovated. How can our shabby thatched huts be compared to them? Sigh. Who told them to have such a good boss? Sigh, let's eat quickly. Now that their boss is also our boss, he's not bad to us. We have to work hard later. At the very least, we have to be worthy of this delicious meal at noon. Li Tai walked aimlessly in the forest. He heard the villagers' exclamations and discussions about the food. His heart was suddenly filled with mixed feelings. Was this the arrival of the Golden Age that the ministers in the imperial court talked about? The villagers couldn't even afford to eat fatty meat. What kind of Golden Age was this? At this moment, Li Tai's heart was filled with anger and sorrow. Li Zixuan was right. He was just a prince who didn't eat the hardships of the world. If Li Zixuan hadn't reminded him and stopped him, he would have thrown away the delicious food in the villagers' mouths. If that happened, how would he be different from the Jinhui Emperor, who said, "If the people don't have rice to satisfy their hunger, why not eat meat?" Li Tai never thought of himself as a saint. He also never felt that he had the responsibility or obligation to let the people in the world live a good life. That was what an emperor should do. Although he had fought openly and secretly with Li Chengqian in the past, it wasn't for the position of crown prince. It was just two children fighting for their father's love. That was all. At this age, Li Tai didn't have the heart to fight for the position of crown prince. He didn't want to be a saint, nor did he want to be an emperor. Therefore, Li Tai naturally believed that the lives of the people in the world had nothing to do with him as the king of Wei. However, only by truly experiencing things would he understand his true nature. Surrounded by a group of poor commoners who couldn't even eat meat, Li Tai felt that he couldn't be happy being the king of Wei. All he could feel was sorrow and bitterness. Brothers of Regiment 1, although the construction site is full, don't King eat it. If you are too full to walk, how are you going to quarry in the afternoon? If your performance is poor, you will only be able to eat radishes and vegetables tomorrow. Hu Hanyun's roar came from the forest. Ha ha! Got it, Regiment Commander Hu! Ha ha! The villagers immediately roared with laughter. Although this king has no obligation to save the people of the world, this king has an obligation to live a happy life. Only when the people around me live a good life can this king live a happy life. Meat and wine stink behind the door of the Vermilion, but there are frozen bones on the road. This will be a lifelong warning for me, Li Tai. I, Li Tai, will definitely not be a king whose name will go down in infamy for 10,000 years. At this moment, Li Tai's eyes emitted a dazzling glow. He looked up at the sky above Cloud Mountain and muttered to himself. Chapter 471. Inside the shed. It didn't take long for Li Zishuan to finish the food in his bowl. Putting aside the ingredients, the taste of the food was similar to the school cafeteria in his previous life. In this life, although he was more particular about what he ate at home, he wasn't someone who hadn't suffered before. Naturally, he wouldn't find it hard to swallow just because the quality of the food wasn't as good as at home. At this moment, he was about to clean up the bowls and chopsticks and take them out. However, he saw Li Tai walking in with a young man. Hello, boss. I am the vice captain of the 8th team of the 1st Regiment, Gu Xiaomao. I came from Xinfeng County's Stone Village. The young man was probably not even 20 years old. He was very young, and his whole body exuded a quick-wittedness. He had been trembling with fear as he followed behind Li Tai. After entering the shed, he discovered that Li Zishuan was also here. He hurriedly came over and bowed to greet him. Hello. Li Zishuan nodded lightly and looked at Li Tai. It would be a lie if Li Zishuan said that he was not surprised that Gu Xiaomao had become a vice-captain at such a young age. However, a hero's background was not important. Li Zishuan did not question or look down on Gu Xiaomao because of this. Li Zishuan believed that Yan Xiaoning had his reasons for promoting a young man like this. His main target was still Li Tai. The little fatty's face was expressionless. No one could tell what he was thinking. He walked over to the table where he had his meal just now and shouted at Gu Xiaomao, "Gu Xiaomao, come over here!" "Hey, coming!" Gu Xiaomao responded and hurriedly ran over. "Here, all the meat is for you. Bring your bowl over." Li Tai raised his bowl and pouted his lips as he said, "Ah?" Gu Xiaomao was dumbfounded. He never thought that Li Tai would call him over for this. "What's wrong?" "This king. I have never touched this food before. Why are you complaining about it?" Li Tai stared at him and was about to throw a tantrum. No. Gu Xiaomao almost peed his pants when he heard that. He hurriedly explained, "Your Highness, this lowly one wouldn't dare to dislike it. It's just that this lowly one doesn't dare to eat your Highness' food." "What His Highness?" "Gu Xiaomao, let me tell you one more time. In these 2 months there is no Highness on Cloud Mountain, only Captain Li. Please call me Captain Li in the future, do you hear me?" Li Tai frowned and scolded. Looking at his serious face, Li Zishuan almost burst out laughing. "Please call me Captain Li." This sentence was too king out of character. However, this was not the right time. Li Zishuan could only hold back his laughter and watch how Li Tai would play. Yes, Captain Li, Xiaomao understands." Gu Xiaomao touched the beads of sweat on his forehead. This was not sweat from the heat, but cold sweat from fear. Only the heavens knew how painful it was to be the vice-captain of a prince. Anyway, Gu Xiaomao was under a lot of pressure. "Then, why aren't you bringing your bowl over?" Oh, thank you, Captain Li." Although Gu Xiaomao was very greedy for those fat slices of meat, he still wanted to see who gave them to him. Looking at the pile of fat slices in his bowl, Gu Xiaomao was very anxious. "Alright. Hurry up and eat outside. You still have work to do in the afternoon." Li Tai put all the fat slices into Gu Xiaomao's bowl and waved his hand to chase him away. "Yes, Captain." Gu Xiaomao felt as if he had been pardoned and quickly ran away with his bowl. In an instant, only Li Zixuan and Li Tai were left in the shed. Li Tai sat down and finished the food in his bowl. He did not even frown. He was a completely different person from the person who was having a hard time eating. Seeing this, Li Zixuan knew that Li Tai had thought things through. The reason why Li Tai was still unwilling to talk to him was probably because he couldn't bring himself to do so. After all, his words just now were indeed a bit harsh. It was already good enough that Li Tai, who had always lived like a prince, didn't use a sword to cut him down. Thinking of this, Li Zixuan smiled. He did not say anything to provoke the little fatty. He took his cutlery and prepared to leave. "Sir." At this moment Li Zixuan, who had not spoken to Li Tai since he came in, suddenly spoke. Li Zixuan was startled. In private situations, Li Tai rarely called him Mr. Usually, he would use the name between friends. Now, he was calling him that. What was the little fatty trying to say? "Sir, can engineering allow the people of the world to wear new clothes and eat meat?" Seeing that Li Zixuan paused, Li Tai continued to ask. Li Zixuan was silent for a moment before saying, "Of course not." When Li Tai heard this, his brows furrowed into a ball. His eyes stared fixedly at Li Zixuan's back, wanting an explanation. "Engineering is just a kind of knowledge, just like Confucianism. It's just a dead thing. For the people of the world to have enough food and clothing and for every family to be able to eat meat, the key is how the ruler acts. Although Emperor Qin and Emperor Hanwu were the divine lords of the world, they only managed to pacify the world so that the country would not be bullied by foreigners. The people of the country still did not have enough food and clothing. Compared to Confucianism, engineering has its unique characteristic. It is more like a tool to increase the productivity of the people. As for whether this tool can be fully utilized, it depends on whether the ruler is willing to use it. Fortunately, the current emperor was magnanimous and was willing to give engineering a chance to flourish. Then, the result might be different. So, Qinke, if the young people of Tang can all wield the sharp blade of engineering, although I don't dare to say that 100% of the people of Tang can have enough food and clothing, I'm sure that 80% to 90% of the people of Tang can have enough food and clothing. At that time, we will truly usher in an unprecedented golden age. Li Zixuan knew that Li Tai would have doubts in his heart. He put his hands behind his back and said in a deep voice, "In the modern era, even a country as great as America still had beggars." Thus, Li Zixuan did not dare to guarantee that 100% of the people of Tang could have enough food and clothing once the industrial production level of Tang improved. However, he could still guarantee that most people would have enough food and clothing. Tai understands. I'm willing to work with Sir to bring engineering to greater heights. Li Tai gave a disciple's salute and cupped his fists in a serious manner. Ha! Good. I hope that when Yanhuang College leads the people of Tang to have enough food and clothing, there will be a great achievement in it. Li Zixuan waved his hand with a smile and went out the door. Li Zixuan was very happy that Li Tai could walk out of his inner demons and comprehend such principles. In the end, he still valued Li Tai very much. If it were someone else, he would not have put in so much effort. I, Li Tai, don't need great achievements. I just want to live happily. Li Tai looked at the door and mumbled to himself. Chapter 472. Hu Hanyun's first construction corps was mainly responsible for the supply and transportation of construction materials at the construction site. The building materials required by the Yanhuang Academy generally consisted of mud bricks, lime, glutinous rice mortar, stone, and wood. The first 3 were bought from various places with money. For materials like mud bricks, which required a large quantity, a small team had to be sent to the brick kiln to bring them back. In the Tang Dynasty, there were many brick kilns among the people, but most of them were small in scale. This time, Yanwang College's construction corps cooperated with an official kiln near Chang'an. It was more than 30 miles away from Mei Village. The walls of Chang'an and the construction of the imperial palace were all built with mud bricks from that kiln. Logically speaking, Li Zixuan could build his own brick kiln if he wanted. Moreover, the bricks from his kiln would definitely be stronger than those from other kilns. Building a kiln seemed to be very difficult, but it was not difficult at all to actually start. As long as you mastered the technique, building a brick kiln was even easier than building a house. The only difficult thing to solve was the problem of the chimney. It should be known that the chimney of the brick kiln in modern times was 30 to 40 meters high, which was a bit difficult in the Tang Dynasty, where there were no tower cranes or scaffolding. However, it was not impossible to solve. Li Zixuan knew of a way to burn bricks without a chimney: the circular kiln. The circular kiln looked like a row of long bunkers. Its height was less than 5 meters, but its length was more than 200 feet. The biggest advantage of the circular kiln was that it could burn bricks in a circular manner. It could build 20 kilns, and each kiln could be lit individually. Compared to the conjoined kilns of this era, which had 8 kilns in each group, the circular kiln was more efficient and more fuel efficient. Although there were many advantages to building his own brick kiln, Li Zixuan did not intend to do so. He could not build all the materials by himself, could he? That would take a lot of effort, and this kind of monopolization was not good. He had to leave some profits for others, right? In the afternoon, Hu Hanyun took more than 3,000 people of the 1st Regiment to hunt in the mountains. To be precise, they were going to cut wood. They had to bring back a batch of wood and hand it over to the other regiments to build temporary housing for the workers. For the entire construction corps, this was the first day of work. Other than the division of formations, there was only the construction of a place to settle down. The official building of the academy would have to wait until the next day. Fortunately, it was summer now, and the workers' residences only needed to be able to block the sun and rain. There was no need to think about keeping warm, so it was very simple to build. The sun was setting. Cloud Mountain was still very lively. Rows of small sheds were arranged in the forest, and there was a number hanging in front of each shed. 99% of the workers did not know how to read, let alone Arabic numerals. However, there were so many sheds that Li Zixuan could only order each of them to remember the number on the sign of their shed in order to prevent the workers from going to the wrong place at night. Seeing that the city gate of Chang'an was about to close and the workers' residences at the construction site were about to be completed, he asked someone to find Li Tai and prepare to return to the city. As the chief commander of more than 10,000 people, Yan Xiaoning felt that he was shouldering a heavy responsibility. The workers' residences had not been completed yet, so he would not go back with them at night. As for Yan Lide and Faubert, they had already gone back 2 hours ago. Xiaoxian, why don't you go back alone? There are still 2 people in the 8th Squad of the 1st Regiment who haven't finished building their residences yet. Li Tai seemed to be intoxicated. This was the first sentence he said when he was called to Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan heard this, stared at him and scolded, "Go away! If you stay outside the city, His Majesty and Her Majesty will skin me alive if they know about it. If the residences are not ready, just leave it to Gu Xiaomao. What are you doing here?" Li Tai came back to reality, and remembered that he was a child with parents. He also understood that Li Zixuan was telling the truth. He could not help but touch his nose embarrassedly and silently accept the organization's arrangement. Li Zixuan glanced at him unhappily, then said to Gu Xiaomao, "Xiaomao, I'll leave the remaining tasks of the 8th Squad of the 1st Regiment to you. Is there a problem?" Gu Xiaomao was very perceptive. He knew that this was an opportunity for him to perform. He quickly said loudly, "Boss, no problem, absolutely no problem. You and the captain can go back to the city without worry." "Did you hear that? They're fine here. Chinke, why don't you get on the horse? It'll be bad if the city gate closes later," Li Zixuan urged. "Okay. Gu Xiaomao, I'll leave the 8th squad to you. I'll come back tomorrow morning." Li Tai nodded his head and mounted his horse. However, he was still a little worried as he warned. "Yes, yes, Captain. Don't worry." The two of them rode at full speed and finally returned to Chang'an City before sunset. Li Zixuan naturally returned to Yongla Lane. As for the little fatty, he had to go to the palace before returning to Prince Wei's residence. After all, he had decided to participate in the construction of Yanhuang College today, and he had not gotten Li Er's permission yet. "Chinke, where did you go and sweat so much? And I haven't seen you all day." At the Lijing Palace, Li Tai saw Li Er and Empress Zhongsun. They had just finished their meal because Li Tai could still smell the leftover aroma of the food in the air. He did not eat well at noon and did not eat well at night. The little fatty was now so hungry that his chest was sticking to his back. Of course, he would be more sensitive to the aroma of the food. "Father, Yanhuang College started construction today. I went to Yunshan with the teacher and was busy the whole day. I just returned to the city and did not have time to take a bath. That's why I lost my composure. Please forgive me, Father." Li Tai answered Li Er's question, but he was thinking about how much food he should ask the chef to prepare when he returned to the prince's residence later. "Chinke, you actually went to Yanhuang College to help?" How could Li Er not know Li Tai's nature? That was why he was so surprised when he heard Li Tai's words. Empress Zhongsun also interrupted, "Chinke, you left the city for the whole day without a word. I didn't expect you to go to the wilderness. It's a hot summer day. You must have suffered a lot, right?" Thinking about what he had experienced today, Li Tai felt that it was hard, but he felt that it was more fulfilling. This day was equivalent to a month before. "Mother, I didn't suffer. Instead, I learned a lot. I plan to help the teacher build the college in the next 2 months. I hope Father and Mother will allow it." "What?" Li Er raised his eyebrows and stared at Li Tai. He asked, "You have never experienced construction before. How are you going to help Li Zixuan build the college?" Empress Zhongsun also frowned and asked, "Chinke, as far as Mother knows, Shaoxian has invited more than 10,000 craftsmen and commoners to participate in the construction of the college. The construction progress is naturally not a problem. Chinke, you have lived in the depths of the palace since you were young. How can you go and suffer?" Chapter 473. Inside Lijing Hall, Li Tai cupped his hands to Li Er and Zhongsun. "Imperial Father, Imperial Mother, please allow me to report. It is precisely because this son has never experienced construction that this son wants to personally give it a try. Engineering, engineering, engineering. If this son does not experience construction, how can this son be called a disciple of engineering? What is learned on paper is shallow, and what is learned must be done personally. I believe that personally practicing is far more useful than reading books in the classroom. What is learned on paper is shallow, and what is learned must be done personally. Could these 2 lines be your new work, Chinke?" Li Er's eyes lit up. He did not mention whether Li Tai should go to the construction site, but instead, he was concerned about the poems. Li Tai was stunned and replied, "Imperial Father, this was written by Mr. Li." "That kid? A few days ago, he wrote 2 love poems. I thought it was a coincidence. Now, it seems that Li Zixuan has some talent in poetry. What are the other 2 lines of the poem?" Li Er rubbed his chin and asked with interest. Li Tai was instantly speechless. His original intention was to share his insights at the construction site with Li Er and Zhongsun, but before he could finish, Li Er was concerned about the 2 lines of the poem. Wasn't he going too far off the topic? Imperial Father, Mr. Li only said 2 lines of the poem. I know nothing about the rest, Li Tai said gloomily. Li Er nodded, then frowned and did not speak. Empress Zhongsun was not as unreliable as Li Er. After all, as a mother, she doted on her son more. At this moment, she frowned and said worriedly, K'er, although what you said makes sense, it will be even hotter on Yunshan in this scorching summer. K'er, you have never suffered since you were young. How will you be able to stand it? Li Er also snapped out of his daze and nodded. Yes. Qin Ke, your imperial mother is right. It is easy to get heatstroke in the summer. Don't get involved. If you want to experience engineering practice, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. As an emperor, Li Er had always been strict with his sons. However, Li Tai was fat. Fat people were naturally afraid of the heat. Therefore, Li Er was also very worried that Li Tai would get a heatstroke on this hot day. However, Li Tai's mind was now filled with the thought of leading his team to cause trouble. Why would he care about this little bit of difficulty? When he heard that Li Er didn't agree, he quickly said, Imperial Father, Imperial Mother, this son is not afraid of the mere heat. This son only arranged for others to do the work and did not personally do the work, so it is not that tiring. The ones who worked really hard were the commoners. They were also Imperial Father's people. Normally, they couldn't even afford to eat fat meat, but they had to do the hardest and most tiring work at the construction site. Just for a few dozen copper coins a day, they were willing to sweat like rain. If I don't go to Cloud Mountain today, I'm afraid I won't know these things for the rest of my life. This son doesn't want to be a prince who doesn't work hard, doesn't know the 5 grains, and doesn't care about the hardships of the commoners. I implore Imperial Father and Imperial Mother to fulfill my wish. These words were said sincerely by Li Tai. Li Er and Zhang Xuan's expressions also gradually became solemn. The atmosphere in the main hall became very heavy for a moment. After a long time, Li Er stood up and came to Li Tai. He patted his shoulder and sighed. Haha. Qin, you have really grown up. I didn't expect you to be able to understand so much in just a short day. I am very gratified. Li Zishuan is a qualified teacher. Not bad, not bad. Qin, since you have already thought it through, then go ahead and do it. Imperial Father supports you. Empress Zhongsun opened her mouth, but she wasn't completely a loving mother. She hesitated for a moment, then came to her son's side and said softly, K'er, Imperial Mother is also very gratified that you can say such words. Go. Just take good care of yourself. Li Tai was both happy and touched. He hurriedly said, Thank you Imperial Father and Imperial Mother for your support. By the way, I am very curious about what happened in Yunshan today. It actually made you feel so much all of a sudden. Come, tell me and your Imperial Mother. At the second watch period, the moon hung above the treetops. Li Tai had just come out of the Lijing Palace. The moment the little fatty came out of the palace, he immediately became a runaway wild horse. Wu Chundao, hurry back to the prince's residence and ask the kitchen to prepare food for this prince. Hurry, hurry, hurry! Li Tai sat in the carriage and hurriedly ordered the guards outside. He only wanted to eat meat now. Yes, Your Highness. Wu Chundao was stunned. This was the first time he had received such a strange order. He responded, then urged the warhorse under him to gallop out. In the carriage, Li Tai rubbed his stomach and sank into the sofa. He let out a long breath and said, Now I can finally fight side by side with my brothers of the 1st Regiment and the 8th Squad in peace. In the future, the name of Yanhuang College will spread through the ages, and it will also be thanks to me, Li Tai. F***ck, my stomach is really F***king hungry. Lijing Palace. Zhongsun Palace. After the Emperor and Empress did it, Li Er held Empress Zhongsun and looked at the bed curtain above his head in a daze. Your Majesty, are you still thinking about what Kair said just now? Empress Zhongsun leaned on Li Er's chest and asked softly. She had been husband and wife with Li Er for many years. Of course, they still had this bit of tacit understanding. In fact, what Li Tai said just now also touched Zhang Xuan's heart. Ha ha. That's right. Wine and meat go to waste at the door of the Vermilion, and there are frozen bones on the road. Li Zishuan, that brat, really dared to say that. Since the establishment of the Tang Dynasty, which of the emperors and ministers hasn't worked hard for the people and the country? In the end, they ended up with such an evaluation. What a great irony! Li Er came back to his senses, stroked Empress Zhangxuan's back, and said with a long sigh, Your Majesty, that child probably said those words just to give Qin Ke a warning. He didn't mean anything else, but his words were indeed a little too harsh. I was thinking that with Qin Ke's temperament, she actually didn't break off with Xiao Xian after hearing those words. I have to say, ever since Ke followed Li Zishuan to study, his temperament has changed a lot. Empress Zhongsun first helped Li Zishuan a little by saying a few words. After all, those 2 lines of the poem that satirized current politics still had some treason in it, and then sighed with emotion at Li Tai's recent changes. Li Er nodded and said, I understand what Guanyin Maid means. Qin Ke has indeed changed a lot recently. Li Zishuan's knowledge is outstanding. He paused, then continued, It's a good thing for young people to have dreams. I also hope that he and Qin Ke can build Yanhuan College well and carry forward the study of engineering. I give them a chance, and I only hope that in my lifetime I can see the eternal prosperity that they speak of. Erlang, you definitely will. Chapter 474. The next morning. The sun had just risen, and Li Zishuan was practicing Tai Chi with the 3 beauties in the west courtyard. It had to be said that in terms of work and rest, he could be called a healthy bro. The reason why he was so healthy was because he was enjoying the wonderful time in the morning. If he was asked to practice Tai Chi with a group of men in the morning, this guy would definitely stay in bed and not get up. Before he finished one round of Tai Chi, he heard from the servants that Li Tai was here. The servants were very sensible. Everyone knew that Li Zishuan had a reserved program in the west courtyard in the morning, so it was not convenient for outsiders to come in. So this time, Li Tai wanted to barge in like before, but he was stopped by the servants at the door. Li Zishuan was very satisfied with the comprehension of the servants. Because it was summer now, when the beauties practiced Tai Chi with him in the morning, they all wore very soft and close-fitting training clothes. In this era there was no underwear. Wearing such clothes, one could still see some spots on the outside. Li Zishuan was not willing to let this little fatty take advantage of him. In this aspect, Li Zishuan had always been very stingy. Qin Ke, why are you here so early? Have you eaten? Li Zishuan asked his wife to continue practicing with Xiao He and Xiao Shi. He walked out of the west courtyard alone and saw Li Tai drinking tea in the front hall. He asked the servants to serve breakfast and asked, It's almost morning, how is it early? Li Tai rolled his eyes and said sarcastically, I heard from your servants that you haven't woken up yet, so I didn't go in. Sir, you are so lazy. You are not setting a good example for the students. Get lost. It's you who woke up too early today. You must have been too excited from being a team leader last night, right? Don't you know what time you used to wake up every day? Li Zishuan scolded with a smile. Logically speaking, he was already very diligent, okay? He was a proper model worker. Nonsense. I am worried about the progress of the construction of the academy. Li Tai said stubbornly. Li Zishuan chuckled. Just then, the servants served breakfast. His breakfast was also very simple. There was a plate of pickled vegetables and a bowl of very thick rice porridge. There were no steamed buns or buns. There was no baking powder in this era, so the steamed buns were not very tasty. Therefore, Li Zixuan only ate steamed buns and porridge in the morning. No one would believe that he, a nouveau riche who earned hundreds of thousands of dollars every minute, had such a shabby breakfast. "Qinke, did you eat it or not? If you haven't eaten, I'll get someone to bring you a bowl." In his own home, Li Zixuan didn't have to be polite. He sat down at the table and prepared to eat. He asked Li Tai, "I've eaten." "Xiao Xian, quickly finish your meal and follow me to the construction site." Li Tai looked at the shabby breakfast and shook his head as he urged. As a foodie, the little fatty must have eaten before he came over. If Li Zixuan had something new for breakfast, he might have sat down and tried a few bites out of respect. But now, forget it. Li Zixuan ignored him and started eating. As for his speed, it was neither too fast nor too slow. He was not in a hurry. Slurp, slurp. It had to be said that the porridge and pickled vegetables were a match made in heaven. Li Zixuan ate with gusto. After a while, he finished the bowl of porridge. Li Tai looked at him suspiciously and thought, "Isn't it just a bowl of porridge? Is there a need to eat so happily?" Suddenly, the little fatty noticed the black strip of vegetables on the plate. He asked curiously, "Xiao Xian, what is this? Why is it so black?" "This is my family's homemade pickled vegetables. It goes with rice. It's crispy." "Why? Qinke, do you want to try it?" There was no accurate statement about the origin of pickled vegetables. According to the relevant evidence, pickled vegetables originated from the Bronze Age. But pickled vegetables made from radish, at least in this era, did not exist. Don't doubt that there were no radish in the Tang Dynasty. China was the country with the richest radish germplasm resources in the world. There were about 2,000 local varieties of radish. In the Book of Songs there was a sentence, Kai Feng Kai Fei. Generally, people thought that Fei was radish. In the Han Dynasty literature, radish had 8 of the top 10 characteristics, such as luo fu, etc. The main ingredients were nothing more than refined salt and soy sauce. There was a lot of refined salt at home, but it was very expensive. As for soy sauce, this thing was also available in the Tang Dynasty. Soy sauce evolved from soy sauce. As early as 3,000 years ago, there were records of soy sauce being made in China's Zhou Dynasty. The invention of soy sauce brewing by the ancient Chinese Han working people was purely an accidental discovery. China's ancient emperors used condiment. The earliest soy sauce was made from fresh meat. It was similar to the process of making fish sauce today. Because of its excellent taste, it gradually spread among the people. People who read a little bit of ancient Chinese probably knew the story of Fan Zhongyan's cutting rice porridge. Fan Zhongyan's family was poor when he was young. He lived in a temple and studied hard. Every day, he cooked a pot of thin porridge. After it was condensed, he divided it into 4 pieces, 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening. He only ate chopped pickled vegetables. Not only that, but he also tasted the marrow and knew the taste, and wrote an essay called Fu Fu, in which there was a line like inside the Tao family's urn, pickled dark green and yellow, in a big mouth, chewing out gong shang ji. It was a dish of pickled vegetables that was only for the poor to eat, but it was written in a very good tone and color, and Tao were very happy. Such hardships had caused him to develop a firm and unyielding, hard-working and thrifty style, and he had a deep understanding of the hardships of the people. In the future, no matter high in the temple or far away in the martial arts world, he would take the world as his own responsibility. He would worry about the country and the people, get rid of corruption, and benefit the common people. Then I'll try it. Li Tai was interested. He pursed his lips and hesitated. Li Zixuan glanced at him. He knew that this was a guy who wanted to save face. He was too lazy to argue and directly asked someone to add a pair of chopsticks. After a while, the dishes were served. Li Tai picked up the chopsticks and copied Li Zixuan. He ate 2 pieces of pickled vegetables and a mouthful of rice. Li Tai immediately felt that the pickled vegetables tasted really good. He smiled and said, "Oh, Xiao Xian, this pickled vegetable is really good. It's full of flavor and texture. No wonder you enjoyed it so much." Hee. Is there a need to say it? Is it because with this kind of dish, the porridge will taste better? Li Zishuan nodded and smiled. Haha. It's true. Xiao Xian, I'll bring some pickled vegetables back from you later? Li Tai was very happy to find new food. Okay. I can give you some. But you are the Prince of Wei. Won't you feel embarrassed if you eat pickled vegetables with rice? Li Zishuan asked a very practical question. Chapter 475. Slurp, slurp, slurp. Oh. Whoever wants to say that I'm an embarrassment, let them say so. It's fine as long as I eat comfortably. Go get another bowl of porridge for me. Li Tai finished a bowl of porridge and pickled vegetables very quickly. He rubbed his round belly and ordered Xiao He, who was beside him. Let's go. Almost everyone in the Li family knew Li Tai's frequent customer. Xiao He rolled her eyes when she heard such an impolite order, but she still took the empty bowl to get more rice. Li Zishuan glanced worriedly at Li Tai's round body and said, "Qinke, with your body shape, is it what? What's wrong with my body shape?" Li Tai looked down at his waist and legs and said innocently, I want to say, Qinke, shouldn't you consider losing weight? You think I don't want to, but the feeling of being hungry is worse than killing me. So I'll just keep on being like this." Li Tai rubbed his head in frustration and said gloomily. Li Zishuan sighed and said helplessly, "Anyway, be careful. Being too fat isn't a good thing for your body." Okay, I got it. Xiao Xian, you're so long-winded. Li Tai waved his hand impatiently and said. At this moment, Xiao He brought a bowl of porridge for Li Tai. Li Tai ignored Li Zishuan and focused on enjoying his second breakfast. Li Zishuan shook his head and stopped persuading him. He took the empty bowl out. Unlike Li Tai, who was a glutton, he was already full. Burp. Xiao Xian, let's go. I'm afraid the construction site has already started. Li Tai had already eaten breakfast in the morning, but he still ate 3 bowls of porridge at Li Zishuan's place. How big his stomach was really depended on how much food he had. Oh, Qinke, you go first. I still have to make some arrangements. Li Zishuan raised his head and looked at the rising sun in the east. He thought for a moment and said, "Arrange what?" Li Tai thought that Li Zishuan wanted to slack off, so he walked over and asked. "Look, Qinke, it's not even 7:30 in the morning, 7:45 in modern times, and the sun is already so solid. You can imagine how hot the weather is today. I'm afraid it's even more unbearable on the Cloud Mountain. I have to arrange for people to buy a batch of things to relieve the heat. Otherwise, it would be bad if the craftsmen and commoners get heatstroke," Li Zishuan said with a serious expression. The Li Zishuan had a lot of ice cubes. Li Zishuan wasn't afraid of the hot weather, but the 10,000 or so commoners couldn't help but be afraid. With the medical standards of this era, heatstroke was life-threatening. Previously, Sanbao had gotten heatstroke while helping him test the telegraph machine. She had been lucky enough to escape death. What Little Xian said made sense. By the way, don't you have a lot of ice cubes at home? Can you help me bring some ice cubes over later? Li Tai said hurriedly. He still had lingering fears when he thought about yesterday's hot afternoon. Okay, but didn't you want to share Wheel and Woe with your subordinates? If you use ice cubes, then what about the members of your team? First of all, I don't have that much ice cubes at home. Li Zishuan looked at Little Fatty and said with a smile that wasn't a smile. That's true. Li Tai scratched his head and said, Then Little Xian, what method do you plan to use to relieve the heat for the craftsmen and commoners? Li Zishuan thought for a while and said, It's nothing more than cold melon and cold bean soup. Also, it seems like we can't let the commoners work for 2 hours in the afternoon. Cold melon was watermelon. In this era, there was no such thing as watermelon. According to historical records, it had been introduced to the southeast coastal area of our country 5 generations ago. However, it wasn't called watermelon. Instead, it was called cold melon because of its cooling properties. As for cold bean, it was the modern mung bean. This thing had a long history of planting in China and could be traced back to the Han Dynasty. Okay, that's it then. If the others can bear it, then I'll be fine too. I'll go to the construction site first. Li Tai waved his hand and went out to lead his imperial residence guards to Cloud Mountain. Li Zishuan called Wang Zhong and asked him to go to the East Market to purchase a batch of watermelons and mung beans. At this time, the gatekeeper, Ah Fu, walked over and said, "Young master, there's a letter for you." "Who sent it?" Li Zishuan frowned and asked. "It's from the Shao Mansion." Ah Fu bowed and said, "Shao Mansion?" Li Zishuan was even more confused. He didn't know many people with the surname Shao in Chang'an. It was useless to ask more, so he opened the letter and read it. However, after reading it, Li Zishuan's expression became even more strange. This was a letter from Xiao Yu. What was important was that Xiao Yu wrote the letter to ask for the immortal mirror for his grandson. Li Zishuan was really confused. What the hell was this? Xiao Yu was the former cabinet elder and the current minister of civil affairs. He was a proper big shot in the imperial court. He wrote the letter just to ask for a mirror. Was today April Fool's Day? Li Zishuan's mouth twitched slightly and said to Wang Zhong, who hadn't left in time, "Uncle Wang, ask manager's son to send 3 small immortal mirrors to the Shao Mansion." Ah? Wang Zhong's eyes widened. He suspected that he had misheard. "What's wrong?" "Ah, no, young master, this old man will go and ask manager's son." Wang Zhong quickly came back to his senses and said. Li Zishuan nodded understandingly. He was still a little confused. Inside the Taiji Palace, Xiao Yu, who was in the morning court, was a little depressed. He didn't want to write that letter. Xiao Yu had been wise all his life and was quite wise in the literary world, but in the end, for his grandson, he threw away his old face to ask for a mirror. If outsiders knew about it, he would have no place to hide his old face. That's right, Xiao Shui was Xiao Yu's eldest grandson. Therefore, he had no choice but to write the letter because his grandson was still relying on this deceiving immortal mirror to marry his wife. However, with his identity, it was definitely not appropriate for him to personally ask for the immortal mirror. After thinking about it, Xiao Yu felt that it was more appropriate to write a letter to Li Zishuan. He thought that Li Zishuan would also give him face. "Meng are you relieved now? If Grandpa personally asks, there will be no problem." Xiao Shui smiled fawningly at Meng in the Shao Mansion's courtyard. "But what if Grandpa Xiao doesn't ask?" Meng frowned and said, "Hey, that's impossible. Which minister in the current imperial court will not give my grandpa face? Even the emperor. Even the emperor is very concerned about my grandpa." Xiao Shui wasn't stupid. He knew that there were some things that could be said and some that couldn't. He quickly stopped the second half of the sentence and changed his word. "Well, that's true. Then this lady will forgive you this time." Chapter 476. Haha. Then, Menger, is our wedding date going to be as planned? Xiao Shui, who was soft-hearted, was like a lackey at this moment. He licked his lips and asked, "If the Strange Taste Pavilion really sends the mirror over, of course it will be as planned. But..." Menger rubbed her chin and mischievously stopped at a key point. "But what?" Xiao Shui's heart trembled. He suddenly had a bad premonition. The heavens had pity on him. He had been tormented miserably by the girl in front of him for the past few days. "Xiao Shui, why are you so afraid? I just want to ask, do you really like me?" Unlike other young ladies, Menger was quite bold. She didn't blush at all when she said this. There was only purity in her eyes, the kind of purity that didn't know anything about the mortal world. Xiao Shui's heart melted at this moment. How could he say anything else? He nodded like a chick pecking at rice and said, "Yes, yes, yes, of course I really like you. I, Xiao Shui, swear to the heavens, he. I don't want you to swear." Menger giggled and placed her finger on Xiao Shui's lip. Then, she stood up and twisted the hair in front of her forehead and said, "I want to say that since you really like me, then when we get married, you have to compose a poem like, I don't have the wings of a colorful phoenix, but our hearts are as one. I want Sister Nan Xiao and the others to be envious of us." Xiao Shui was dumbfounded. He screamed crazily in his heart, "Li Zixuan, you're so King deceitful. Ah, young master, you brought so many cold melons. How much is it?" Near noon, Li Zixuan brought dozens of carts of cold melons and a few bags of mung beans to Cloud Mountain. Second Master Lu, who was at the entrance of the mountain, saw this huge convoy and immediately stepped forward in surprise. "Ha! Isn't this because I'm afraid that everyone will be too tired? It's just a few carts of cold melons, it's not worth much. It's better that everyone doesn't get heatstroke than anything else." Li Zixuan smiled nonchalantly. "Tsk. Young master, you're really generous. How is this a few carts? It was probably more than 10,000 pounds. To tell you the truth, I, Lu Wanshan, have lived for more than half of my life, but this is the first time I've seen such a compassionate boss." Lu Wanshan looked at the huge fleet and said with emotion, "Everyone is born and raised by their parent. What's the difference between rich and poor? It was just a different reincarnation. Ha! Second Master Lu, I'll go up first." Li Zixuan sighed with deep meaning. He cupped his hands at Second Master Lu and led the team up the mountain. What's the difference between rich and poor? It was just a different reincarnation. Ha! Our young master is really different from the rest. Second Master Lu squinted his eyes and looked at Li Zixuan's back with a complicated expression. "Qinke, what's wrong with you? Are you pregnant?" When they arrived at the top of the mountain, they saw Li Tai standing at the entrance of the mountain. His cheeks were puffed up, and he was trying to hold back his laughter. His expression was very strange. Li Zixuan could not help but complain. "Ck, you're the one who's pregnant." "Ha! I can't take it anymore. It's over. Let's go to the side. If Xiaoning sees me laughing, he'll kill me." When Li Tai heard this, he jumped 3 feet high. As he spoke, he could not help but hold his stomach and laugh. However, this little fatty could not help but look back as he laughed. In the end, he even pulled Li Zixuan into the small forest at the side. Li Zixuan was shocked. Who would be willing to go into the forest with a damn fatty? He did not do gay things. Wait, what exactly happened? What's the meaning of your sneaky look? Li Zixuan could not stand this gay little fatty and hurriedly said, "Ah, forget it. I'll go to the side and laugh for a while more. Little Xian, go to the shed and see for yourself. Ha 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 ha." Li Tai waved his hand and fled in panic. Li Zixuan was confused. Did this little fatty take the wrong medicine today? He shook his head and walked to the big shed in front of him, which was the temporary command room of the construction site. When he went in to take a look, Li Zixuan immediately knew why Li Tai was laughing. "Xiaoning, are you acting in an opera?" Ha 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 ha. Yan Xiaoning was originally a handsome gigolo. However, at this moment, he had turned into a young man full of pimples. In just one night, there were dozens of small red spots on his face, and there was a huge red lump in the middle of his forehead. The most awesome thing was that Yan Xiaoning's eyes were like that of a giant panda's. His entire person looked too beautiful to look at. Bang! "Little Xian, shut up. What are you laughing at? Didn't I become like this because of your academy? If you keep laughing, I'll quit." Yan Xiaoning, who rarely cursed, didn't care about anything else at this moment. He slammed the table with all his might and roared at Li Zixuan, "Damn it! Okay. I won't laugh any more. Haha. I really won't laugh any more. Shouting, let me laugh for a while more. Ha 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 ha." As Li Zixuan spoke, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. Huff huff. Yan Xiaoning panted heavily. His face was getting darker and darker. He clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. He was going to go berserk at any moment. Li Zixuan saw this and quickly held back his laughter. He waved his hand and said, "Cough, cough, I won't laugh any more." Shouting, "Hurry up and tell me, what's wrong with you? Why are there so many bumps on your face? Damn, it's all your fault." Yan Xiaoning's face darkened as he yelled, "This is AF King Baron Mountain. At night, the mosquitoes are like locusts passing through, and there are no curtains at the construction site. Do you know how hard I slept last night?" Li Zixuan suddenly realized that Yan Xiaoning's head was full of mosquito bites last night. Speaking of mosquitoes, whether it was in Chang, a city, or in the middle of nowhere, there were a lot of them in summer. Li Zixuan did not feel it before. First, the Li family often burned mosquito repellent. Second, the Li family's bed had curtains, similar to modern mosquito net. Third, Li Zixuan's bedroom would put a lot of ice cubes every day. Usually, it was 30 to 40 degrees outside, but only 15 to 16 degrees inside. It was like turning on the air conditioner. Mosquitoes did not like such a cold environment, so he was not bothered by mosquitoes usually. But at the construction site, it was completely different. Li Zixuan had spent the whole day arranging the accommodation for the workers yesterday. He did not consider the mosquitoes at night at all. Even if he did, he was pressed for time and could not solve it yesterday. More than 10,000 curtains were not a small number. Even if he had money, he could not buy so many curtains in such a short time. Chapter 477. Inside the shed at the peak of Yunshan, Li Zixuan took a few deep breaths and forced himself to calm down. Yan Xiaoning did not have it easy. If he continued to laugh, it would really hurt his heart. "Oh, Xiaoning, did the others not sleep well last night?" Li Zixuan thought about it and asked. If the mosquito problem was too serious, he had to find a way to solve it. Yan Xiaoning glared at him and said unhappily, "What do you think? Don't tell me those mosquitoes specifically caught me and bit me? Everyone basically did not sleep well last night. Oh, not only mosquitoes, we also heard a tiger's roar last night." Tiger's roar? Li Zixuan was shocked. He hurriedly asked, "The world has been peaceful for a long time. Why are there still tigers nearby? No tigers broke in last night, right?" Yan Xiaoning replied, "That's not true. The tiger's roar was very far from here. According to Second Master Lu, it came from Fenglin Mountain. The terrain there is steep, dense forest, and few people go there. It is not surprising that there are 1 or 2 wild beasts there. Yunshan is close to Plum Village and Han Village. There are many people here, so those wild beasts would not dare to come here for no reason." Li Zixuan was relieved. He nodded and said, "That's good. But from now on, each team must send 2 people out to keep watch at night in case of any accidents." Yan Xiaoning knew the severity of the matter. He nodded and said, "I understand. Don't worry. Hiss. F*ck. I really suffered a huge loss this time. My body is really F*king itchy." As Yan Xiaoning spoke, he could not help but scratch the parts of his body that were bitten by mosquitoes last night. Li Zixuan then noticed that not only Yan Xiaoning's face, but also his arms were also left with many mosquito kisses. This good brother of his had indeed sacrificed a lot for Yanhuang College. Li Zixuan clasped his fist and said, "Xiaoning has indeed troubled the college. I will get someone to send some alcohol over later. You can apply it on the mosquito bites. It should stop the itch quickly. In the afternoon, get a couple of people to collect some mugwort and wormwood. Smoke it for everyone's residence. It should be much better at night. I'll get someone to send another batch of mosquito-repellent sachets over and let everyone hang them on the bedside. With this multi-pronged approach, I'm sure the mosquitoes won't be as rampant as last night. In the Tang Dynasty, there were no mosquito repellents or chemical repellents like dichlorvos, but people still thought of many ways. Wealthy families would have curtains on their beds and mosquito-repellent plants in their bedrooms, such as insect-eating grass, patchouli, violets, balsamine, chrysanthemum, and so on. These plants could not only repel mosquitoes, but also purify the air. Carrying a perfume pouch was also one of the habits of the ancient people. Many of the herbs in the perfume pouch were also believed to have the effect of repelling mosquitoes, such as patchouli, peppermint, perilla, calamus, lemongrass, star anise, and so on. This was equivalent to carrying mosquitoes don't bite on one's body. Of course, the most common method was to burn mugwort and wormwood to smoke mosquitoes. The cost was low, the killing area was large, and the effect was good. Well, it was worth mentioning that since the Song Dynasty, there were mosquito-repellent incenses. At that time, it was called mosquito smoke or mosquito repellent. The main ingredients were mugwort, realgar, and duckweed. The product was similar to incense, and there was a special workshop. During the Ming and Qing dynasties, the production of mosquito-repellent incense had further development. The raw materials kept increasing, including ferula, qianghua, chuanxiong, sulfur, camphor, tobacco, and so on. So don't say that mosquito-repellent incense didn't exist in the ancient times. But it definitely didn't exist in the Tang Dynasty. Yan Xiaoning raised his head and said, "Mugwort, wormwood, and perfume pouch are all fine. I thought about it before, but isn't alcohol used to make medicinal wine? Can it really stop the itch? Xiao Xian, don't lie to me." Previously, when Li Zixuan treated Qin Qiong's illness, he only made one type of medicinal wine. Those who were well-informed knew that one of the key ingredients was alcohol. Li Zixuan also specially bought a batch of alcohol for the military, so Yan Xiaoning was very suspicious of Li Zixuan's suggestion. "Of course. Xiaoning, when have I ever lied to you? I'll ask someone to send the alcohol over later. You'll know when you try it." People in the modern world would usually apply toilet water after being bitten by mosquitoes. When the main character of a time travel novel went to ancient times, they would also make toilet water to make money. However, Li Zixuan found it troublesome. He felt that this thing was flashy and a waste of time. He didn't lack the money for toilet water now. Why was toilet water able to stop the itch? Actually, it was mainly because of the alcohol in it. Toilet water was a type of perfume product that used floral oil as the main ingredient and was refined with alcohol. The essence used in toilet water was slightly inferior, and the content was also lower. It was usually 1% to 3%, so the fragrance was not as long-lasting as other alcohol solutions. The concentration of alcohol in toilet water was 70% to 75%. This kind of mixture could easily penetrate into the bacteria and denature the proteins in the protoplasm and cell nuclei, causing them to lose their vitality. Thus, the disinfectant effect was strong. "Oh, then I'll believe you this time. If you're lying to me, I won't be the commander anymore." Yan Xiaoning curled his lips and threatened. Li Zixuan's face was full of black lines. How untrustworthy was he? He couldn't help but say gloomily, Okay. If it doesn't work, Xiaoning, feel free to look for me. Come out with me now and distribute the cold melons outside to everyone. It's not easy on such a hot day." Yan Xiaoning's eyes lit up. He said happily, "Ha ha. At least you have a conscience. You even know to send us cold melons. TSK. Nothing is better than cold melons on such a hot day." "Hey, then hurry up and distribute the things. It's almost lunchtime. I've already sent a batch of cold beans to my father-in-law at the foot of the mountain. Everyone will have cold bean soup to drink in the future. Li Zishuan patted Yan Xiaoning's shoulder and smiled. Yan Xiaoning nodded. The two of them left the workshed. Yan Xiaoning went to gather the leaders of the various regiments to collect the cold melons. Li Zishuan went to the construction site and wandered around to check on the progress of the project. Captain, it's almost noon. Why is Captain Hu asking us to go over? In the forest, Gu Xiaomao led 20 people and followed Li Tai to the 1st Regiment's encampment. After spending more than a day together, Gu Xiaomao knew that Li Tai was easy to get along with, so he asked, "Hey, why are we going over?" "We're going over to distribute the good stuff. Everyone is going to have a good meal at noon." "Ha." Li Tai smiled and leaked some inside information to Gu Xiaomao. This was also why Li Tai was so awesome compared to the other team leaders. "Wow, is there good food coming?" Gu Xiaomao licked his lips and said excitedly. The villagers behind him also had their eyes lit up. They all stared at the back of Li Tai's head and prayed to hear the answer they were hoping for. Chapter 478. And you can say that. It's a batch of cold melons that Xiao Xian brought over to relieve the heat. Our brothers in the team did well yesterday, and it should be because our team did well. At least we weren't last place, hee. Everyone can't let down their guard today, understand? Li Tai didn't forget to instruct his men as he turned around and said to the people behind him. "Understood, Captain. We will definitely not embarrass you." Gu Xiaomao cupped his hands and said seriously, "Ah, it's actually cold melons? Boss is so generous. Captain, there's nothing to say, just based on how good Boss is to us, we will definitely do our best." Yes, we will definitely do our best. Don't worry, our brothers will definitely not be worse than the other teams. In this era, it wasn't that ordinary people couldn't afford to eat cold melons. It was just that most people didn't have the means to eat it every day. Eating it once in a while was already a great enjoyment. And Li Zishuan actually brought over a batch of cold melons for more than 10,000 people. Of course, they were grateful from the bottom of their hearts. "And it's good that you have this intention." Li Tai nodded and said with relief. Yunshan Mountain at noon today was destined to be unusual. There was still half an hour before lunch, but all the craftsmen and workers received the order to stop work and returned to their respective camp. After returning to the camp, everyone was dumbfounded because they saw a lot of cold melons. "Oh my God! So many cold melons, where did they come from? Could it be that the team leader brought the team leader to steal from someone's melon field at the foot of the mountain? Damn you! Where would the team leader have the time to do that? They must be sent over by Boss. And, when I was working just now, I saw Boss bring a long convoy up the mountain." The group of people below couldn't help but talk about it. At this time, the team leader of their team walked in. He was a middle-aged man. "Quiet. These are all cold melons sent by Boss to everyone. In a while, each house will take one back. You are not allowed to eat now, otherwise you won't be able to eat later." After returning to the house to plant the cold melon, it was time for dinner. Also, yesterday our 5th team got last place. Although it might not be because of our 3rd team, but everyone has to be more spirited today. If you're in last place again, I'll see if you're worthy of the cold melons that the boss sent over. Is that clear? The workers' dormitories on Yunshan Mountain were all 6-person dormitories, and this cold melon weighed at least 5 kilograms. On average, everyone could get at least 1 kilogram. From this point of view, everyone had to admire Li Zishuan's generosity. "Listen up, Captain. We promise that we won't slack off in the afternoon." Yes, I definitely won't slack off." Everyone in the team patted their chests and promised. The middle-aged captain nodded and continued, "After lunch and eating the cold melon, everyone should rest in the house. Today's weather is too hot, and the boss is afraid that you guys will get heatstroke, so he postponed the start of work to 3 p.m. Everyone should rest well and start work on time. Try to finish digging the foundation that the captain assigned to our team by the afternoon. Do you hear me? Work can only start at 5 p.m.? Captain, can we start work ahead of time? Otherwise, I'm afraid we won't be able to finish digging today. Yes, Captain. Can we start work ahead of time? The middle-aged man shook his head and said, No. Whatever the boss says, we have to do it. At that time, the law enforcement team will patrol the construction site. Any team that doesn't start work according to the boss's stipulated time will have their points deducted. If we can't finish the task, we can work overtime after dinner while it's not dark yet. But we can't start work ahead of time. Yes, Captain, this is a good idea. Then, we'll continue working after dinner. Yes, continue working. Continue working. The boss cares about us and treats us like humans. We can't be ungrateful and don't know what's good for us. Yes. We can't let the boss down. We can't get last place again. Walking on the cloud mountain, Li Zixuan realized that a lot of changes had happened on the cloud mountain in just half a day. The weeds and bushes from before were almost all cleaned up. Many uneven places were also filled in. The craftsmen used lime to divide the ground into small pieces. The blueprint of the academy was drawn by Li Zixuan. When Li Zixuan saw the lines drawn by the lime, he knew that it was the layout of the academy that the craftsmen had measured in advance. He guessed that the workers would dig the foundation according to these lines. Well, this progress is quite fast. Looks like Yan Xiaoning didn't learn from his father for nothing. His ability to command and dispatch is undeniable. Li Zixuan walked around and couldn't help but stop and sigh. There was strength in numbers. An organized and planned team was even more powerful. This motley crew of more than 10,000 people had already formed a very strong fighting force under Yan Xiaoning's command. At the very least, Li Zixuan was very satisfied with the current progress. Moreover, he could feel that the entire construction site was bursting with a radical and high-spirited fighting spirit. As the cooperation between the teams became more and more tacit, the progress would only become faster and faster. 2 months was enough to build an academy. Li Zixuan made a rough estimate in his heart and couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. As long as nothing went wrong, he didn't need to worry about the construction site anymore. Well, he could be a hands-off shopkeeper again. Li Zixuan thought happily in his heart. Xiaoning? You've finished distributing the cold melons to everyone? Feeling the footsteps behind him, Li Zixuan turned around and saw Yan Xiaoning, so he laughed. I've finished distributing them. But you're really generous. You probably have more than 20,000 pounds of cold melons, right? Didn't I hear that you were short of money a while ago? Why are you still spending money like this? Yan Xiaoning couldn't help but complain. Li Zixuan looked at him and then said with a strange expression, Xiaoning, if you get married in the future, your sister-in-law will probably have nothing to do all day long. Yan Xiaoning's eyes widened, and 2 big question marks were drawn on his forehead. He asked in bewilderment, Why? Li Zixuan hesitated for a moment, then moved his right foot back and said, Cough, cough. Because, Xiaoning, you've done all the things that a housekeeper should do, so your sister-in-law will have nothing to do. Yan Xiaoning was stunned for a moment before he realized that Li Zixuan was saying that he had a big mouth like a housekeeper. He couldn't help but be furious and roared, F***ck, Xiao Xian, you bastard, you don't know what's good for you. I'll fight it out with you. Ha ha. What a joke. What a joke. Brother Xiaoning will mind. But Li Zixuan was already prepared. This guy quickly slipped away as if there was oil on the soles of his feet. Chapter 479. Yanwang College's current financial situation was still relatively healthy. First of all, Li Zixuan never planned to build the entire college in one go. 2 months wasn't enough to complete such a large project. Therefore, according to the first phase of the college, 150,000 strings of cash was enough to support the various expenses of the construction site for a month. Of course, he believed that the workshop would have some breakthroughs in the research of cement recently. When that happens, the construction cost would be greatly reduced. Currently, the construction site only bought 2 days' worth of cement mortar at a time. They were prepared to replace it with cement at any time. Moreover, products such as the immortal mirror and colored glass cup had just been released. The market demand had not been fully released yet. Therefore, Strange Taste Pavilion could be considered as Li Zixuan's cash cow now. Basically, a batch of goods released every few days could earn at least 10,000 strings of cash. For Li Zixuan now, earning money was just that easy. Therefore, spending a few hundred strings of cash to buy watermelons for the workers to relieve the heat was really nothing to him. Although he didn't have the ability to change the fate of all the poor people, he would definitely help these pitiful and respectable workers in front of him. After joking with Yan Xiaoning for a while, the two of them went to the square in front of the construction site. At that moment, the workers were queuing up to get their food. Yesterday, the overall performance of the workers of the 5 regiments was very good. However, because the task of the 5th regiment was lighter than the other regiments, they fell behind in yesterday's evaluation. Therefore, the food they had today was the worst in the entire construction site. Although it was the worst, it was still much better than most people's meals. This was because their food was rich in oil. This was all secretly instructed by Li Zixuan. It was fine if they couldn't eat meat, but there must be oil in the food. Otherwise, the workers would definitely get hungry quickly and lose their energy to work. Of course, the so-called oil was definitely lard. If it was vegetable oil, Li Zixuan wouldn't be able to eat it. Yo, there's also black bean soup today. When it was a worker's turn to get food, he was surprised. Hee, this is what the young master prepared for you. Everyone, drink more later. There's enough black bean soup. The auntie in charge of getting food laughed. Ha! The boss was afraid that everyone would get heatstroke. Without a doubt, we will definitely remember boss's kindness in our hearts. Yeah. First, it's a cold melon, and then it's a cold bean. Boss has really given us a lot of thought. Madman Ma, will never forgive anyone who slacks off. Yes. Whoever dares to play tricks is truly heartless. Li Zixuan's small action once again caused a huge reaction among the commoners. As the saying goes, there will be no harm if there is no comparison. Compared to the past, Li Zixuan really treated them as human beings. They felt genuine concern and respect from Li Zixuan, which was very precious in this era. In just 2 days, Li Zixuan had made more than 10,000 workers and craftsmen identify with him. His speed was quite fast. It could only mean that treating others with sincerity would also result in sincerity. Haha. Xiaoxian, you're quite impressive. I think all the workers are full of admiration for you now. I'm afraid even I can't compare to your influence. As the chief commander of the construction site, how could Yan Xiaoning not know the mentality of these workers? He stood at the edge of the square and exclaimed to Li Zixuan. Ha! Xiaoning, this is called charisma, do you understand? Li Zixuan patted Yan Xiaoning's shoulder and laughed as he said shamelessly. Get lost. What bullsh*t charisma. Don't lie to me. It's just a way to buy people's hearts. My father used it a lot too. Yan Xiaoning rolled his eyes and said unhappily. Li Zixuan said anxiously, Hey? What do you mean by buying people's hearts? These people use their hard work to get paid, and I treat them with sincerity. Xiaoning, don't talk nonsense. There are so many craftsmen and commoners in the world, and I don't lack money. Why would I need to buy people's hearts? Yes. You're right. Go and eat. Remember to send me the alcohol in the afternoon. Yan Xiaoning waved his hand and went to get food. After having lunch at the construction site, Li Zixuan didn't go home immediately because the weather was really hot. The whole earth felt like it was being baked in a furnace, and it was extremely hot. In his previous life, Li Zixuan thought that the ancient times would be cooler because modern society had developed for so many years and would be affected by the global greenhouse effect. In the ancient farming society, the natural conditions were not destroyed, and even if the summer was hot, it wouldn't be too hot. But after experiencing it, he knew that it wasn't the case at all. At the very least, he was extremely hot now. Luckily, all the sheds at the construction site were built in the forest, or else the workers would be in a worse situation in the wilderness. Li Zixuan stayed in Yan Xiaoning's temporary residence for 2 hours until the sun outside wasn't so solid anymore. Then, he took the carriage back to Chang'an City. When he got home, Li Zixuan took out a bottle of 75% medical alcohol and asked the servant to send it to Yan Xiaoning. Not long after, Sun Huaiming came. Old Sun's face was flushed red. He came to the Li residence to report the results of the day to Li Zixuan. Today, the Strange Taste Pavilion had another batch of glass products for sale. Young master, great news! Today we have prepared 400 colored glazed cups, 400 colored glazed lamps, and 200 small celestial mirrors. The number of people lining up at the Strange Taste Pavilion did not decrease. Instead, it increased by several times. Many people stayed at the restaurants in the East Market last night. This morning, the Strange Taste Pavilion had not even opened its doors, and there was already a long line of people waiting outside. Until now, we've sold out all our stocks. Today, we sold more than 80,000 strings of coins worth of goods. It's amazing! Sun Huayuan said excitedly. Li Zixuan nodded indifferently. All of this was within his expectations. The high profits of these colored glass products would definitely continue for a period of time. He smiled and said, "Yes, shopkeeper's son, you've done very well. In the future, the glass cups, the small celestial mirrors, and the small celestial mirrors will be sold in batches every 3 days, and then the large celestial mirrors will be sold in batches every 10 days. We have to control the quantity, and don't let the celestial mirrors become cheap goods that can be seen everywhere." Sun Huayuan had been a manager for so many years, and his understanding of business wasn't low. After hearing this, he immediately understood Li Zixuan's intention. He quickly cupped his hands and said, "Young master, you're really far-sighted. I'll definitely do as you say." "Ha! Manager's son, you flatter me." Chapter 480. Shao Mansion. Menger, look. The Strange Interest Pavilion just sent 3 small immortal mirrors. Ha! Xiao Shui carefully took the 3 wooden boxes to the backyard and laughed at the cute girl on the swing. "Wow! Is that true? Is that true? Let me see." The little girl quickly stopped the swing and stabilized her body. She trotted to Xiao Shui and said excitedly, "Hee. Of course it's true. Here, take it." Xiao Shui handed over the 3 exquisite wooden boxes. Menger took them and opened one of them. Suddenly, a palm-sized shiny mirror appeared in front of her eyes. She took it out, but the smile on her face could not be hidden. "Wow! It's really the immortal mirror! It's really the immortal mirror! The person inside is so clear. Grandpa Xiao is amazing. He got 3 immortal mirrors at once. Sister Nan Xiu and the others will be envious of me. He." Menger held the 3 immortal mirrors and said happily from the bottom of her heart. However, her words completely broke Xiao Shui's heart. "Menger, although Li Zixuan gave my grandfather face, I was the one who asked my grandfather. I risked being scolded to beg my grandfather. How can you forget my contribution?" Xiao Shui said pitifully and gloomily. "Well, that's right. Then Menger thanks Brother Shuj." Menger tilted her head and thought for a while, and finally smiled. "Hee. You're welcome. You're welcome." Xiao Shui's heart was greatly satisfied. Hearing this, he scratched his head and laughed. 2 days later. On this day, Li Zixuan had just finished his breakfast when he heard that Faubert had come. He couldn't help but be happy and thought to himself, could it be that there's a new breakthrough in the research of cement? Li Zixuan hurriedly came to the main hall and saw Faubert walking around excitedly. Young master, we have experimented with the correct formula for cement. The workshop has made cement. Faubert saw Li Zixuan come in and hurriedly said excitedly, "Haha, is it true?" Li Zixuan was even more excited than Faubert. With cement, he didn't need to worry about the construction of the academy. It's true. It's true. Young master, look, this cement has already coagulated. It's 100 times stronger than the failed product of our previous experiments. As Uncle Fu spoke, he took out a fist-sized lump of cement from his sleeve. Li Zixuan's eyebrows twitched. With such a lump of cement in his sleeve, wasn't Uncle Fu afraid that it would fall and hit his foot? Li Zixuan shook his head and threw away the messy thoughts in his mind. Li Zixuan took the cement block. It was slightly heavy and cold. Li Zixuan gently squeezed it and it didn't break. Then, he used 1% of his strength and it still didn't break. Faubert stroked his beard proudly and said with a smile, "Haha, young master, what's crack?" Before Uncle Fu could finish his words, he saw the cement block shatter with a "kacha" sound. Li Zixuan had used 5% of his strength, and the cement block couldn't hold on and turned into powder. Uncle Fu's face suddenly became very interesting. He was stunned on the spot and didn't know what to say. Li Zixuan looked up and saw Faubert's embarrassed expression. He quickly waved his hand and said, "Cough, cough. Faubert, you don't have to be like this. I just wanted to test the endurance of the cement on a whim, so I used a bit of my true qi, which caused the cement block to break. The cement you made this time has actually reached the standard. It's hard enough for ordinary people. The workshop did very well and didn't let me down." Only then did Uncle Fu recover. He more or less knew that Li Zixuan was a martial arts grandmaster. He just didn't expect that a martial arts grandmaster would be so frivolous, thinking about playing all the time. What a motherf asterisk cur. Since young master said so, this old man is relieved. Then I'll go back and ask people to mass-produce this cement and send it to Yunshan. Resisting the urge to complain, Fu Bo cupped his hands and said, "Ah, thank you for your hard work. Then I'll go to the workshop with Faubert and take a look." Li Zixuan thought and said, "Okay." The two of them rode the carriage to the workshop. Li Zixuan was taken directly to the cement kiln by Faubert. "Young master, because the demand for liuli in the Strange Interest Pavilion has been quite high recently, so in order not to affect the production progress of liuli, this old man has asked people to dig a new kiln for burning cement. In the future, the construction site will definitely need a lot of cement. We have to dig more kilns." Faubert pointed to the kiln in front of them and said. Li Zixuan nodded and said, "Well, Faubert, you can decide on these. Don't delay the construction of the academy." Faubert cupped his hands and said, "Yes, young master. Young master, look, this piece of ground is covered with the cement we made. It has just solidified this morning. It is really smooth and hard. It is much better to walk on than the bluestone road. If we use cement to build roads, how comfortable would it be for the carriage to walk on it?" Li Zixuan couldn't help but laugh. Faubert's ability to draw parallels was quite strong. He really thought of another use of cement. "Haha. Faubert, you are right. This cement can not only be used to build houses, but it can also be used to build roads when mixed with sand and stone. This thing is the best road-building material." As Li Zixuan spoke, he couldn't help but squat down and gently touch the cement floor with his hand. The familiar hard and rough feeling made him feel absent-minded. Cement floor, this is the most common and representative thing in modern industrialized society. Who would have thought that it would appear in the Tang Dynasty? He had introduced a modern product into the Tang Dynasty. Thinking about it, in a few decades there would be cement roads everywhere and cement brick houses everywhere. Such a scene, how similar would it be to modern society? Sigh. Since he was destined to not be able to go back, then he would try his best to create a society similar to modern society. It could also be considered as a kind of emotional sustenance. Li Zixuan's eyes were a little red. Faubert noticed something strange and quickly asked, young master, what happened to you?" Nothing. Li Zixuan recovered from his distant thoughts and quickly shook his head. There was a gust of wind just now and the sand on the ground was blown into my eyes. Faubert looked at Li Zixuan suspiciously. He didn't feel the wind at all just now. Ahem. In order to cover up his embarrassment, Li Zixuan coughed and said, "Faubert, get people to hurry up and produce cement. Now that we have cement, the academy is even less short of money. The relocation plan of the workshop can also be pushed forward. Find a time and pick a group of people to build the new workshop there." Yes, young master." Chapter 481. After leaving the workshop, Li Zixuan asked San Bao to drive the carriage to Azure Dragon Lane. Wang Renbiao had told him the address of his house in Chang'an. Azure Dragon Lane was located in the southeast corner of Chang'an. Not far from it, it was Chang'an's most prosperous and famous public garden and scenic tourist area. Half of it was in the city, occupying about 2 lanes. The other half was outside the city, extending southward. It was located in a low-lying area at the head of Fengqi Plain. Due to the accumulation of water, it formed a pool. The pool's banks were like the Guangling River, hence the name Chu River. As an otaku, Li Zixuan rarely went out unless he had something to do. He had never been to this area before. As he stood outside Azure Dragon Lane and looked at the beautiful scenery of Chu River, he was momentarily captivated by the winding banks and the scenery of Changzhou-like waters. "San Bao, what river is that?" Li Zixuan had never been to Chang'an in his previous life, nor did he remember being here in this life. Hence, he did not know that this was Chu River. "Young master, that is Chu River Pool. There is a palace dedicated to His Majesty on the shore. There are also pavilions built by various departments of the imperial court. It is very prosperous. Not only can the emperor's concubines and high-ranking officials come here, but even ordinary citizens can enjoy the scenery here. It is especially lively here on the 3rd of March every year during the Shaanxi festival." As a native of Chang'an, San Bao was very clear about this. When he heard his young master's question, he hurriedly spilled the beans and told him everything he knew. "Oh!" Li Zixuan nodded and thought to himself, "Wouldn't it be a pity if I didn't go and play in such an excellent tourist spot? I can bring my wife and little sister here to row a boat and have a barbecue in the future. Let's go to Wang Renbiao's house." Li Zixuan looked at Chu River Pool, then got back into the carriage. "Yes, young master." "Yo! Lord Zhu, why are you here? Come in, come in." When Wang Renbiao heard that Li Zixuan was here, he personally came out to welcome him. "Haha, long time no see. Renbiao is getting more and more suave." Li Zixuan cupped his hands and said half-jokingly, "Haha, Lord Zhu must be joking. Please come in first. Yao, get someone to serve tea." Wang Renbiao instructed in a low voice before leading Li Zixuan around the screen wall in the front yard to the main hall. Ling Yuyao came in with 2 maids and poured a cup of tea for Wang Renbiao and Li Zixuan. Cough, cough, the task of pouring tea was naturally done by the 2 maids. Ling Yuyao, a great expert, would definitely not do this kind of work herself. She stood motionlessly behind Wang Renbiao with her long sword in her arms. A cold aura emanated from her body, making it seem as if no one was allowed to get close to her within a radius of a few miles. Cold, this woman is still as cold as usual. Li Zixuan sighed in his heart without batting an eyelid. Ling Yuyao was beautiful, but she was too cold. Most likely, Only Wang Renbiao could endure it. Li Zixuan was quietly sizing up Ling Yuyao, and Ling Yuyao was also quietly sizing up Li Zixuan. Although she didn't know the details of the assassination in the eastern suburbs of Chang'an City a few days ago, she knew that Li Zixuan broke through to the Grand Master realm and turned the situation around. This news caused quite a stir in the Jianghu. A Grand Master less than 15 years old. When Ling Yuyao heard the news, she couldn't help but feel a sense of frustration in her heart. Now that she saw Li Zixuan again, she felt a faintly discernible dangerous aura emanating from him. Ling Yuyao's heart was very complicated. Lord Zhu, my humble house is simple and crude. I'm afraid I've neglected you. Please have some tea. Wang Renbiao couldn't feel the probing eyes of the two great experts in the room, so he said with a smile. Haha. Renbiao, why are you so polite? Our two families have worked together so many times. Wouldn't it be strange to address each other with titles? How about we call each other brothers and friends? Although Li Zixuan didn't like the tea of this era, he still understood the principle of, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. He was now in someone else's house, and it would be very impolite to be picky. So, he picked up the teacup, took a symbolic sip, frowned slightly, and swallowed it. Then, he smiled at Wang Renbiao. As for why he frowned, of course, it was because the taste of the tea was too damn sour. Before the Tang Dynasty, there was no way to make tea. From the Wei, Jin, Southern and Northern dynasties to the early Tang Dynasty, people mainly plucked the leaves of the tea tree and mixed it with pepper, ginger, cinnamon, and other seasonings to make a soup for drinking. Drinking tea was just like drinking the vegetable tea soup today. The Wu people called it Ming porridge. Just by looking at the ingredients, one could imagine the taste of the tea soup. Cough, cough, don't even think about it. How ruthless. Haha, then Renbiao, it would be impolite to refuse. My father has always valued you, Xiao Xian. He has always hoped that the Wang family can maintain a good relationship with the Li family. Wang Renbiao said with a smile on his face. Haha. Provincial Governor Wang is honest and upright. If I go to Sui province to play in the future, I'll have to ask your father to take care of me. The Sui province of the Tang Dynasty was roughly near the present-day Sui province of Hubei. However, the area under its jurisdiction was much larger. Li Zixuan's hometown in his previous life was not far from here. He really wanted to take some time to go there and see what his hometown was like in the Tang Dynasty. Wang Renbiao smiled and said, That's easy. Xiao Xian, if you really want to go, I'll personally accompany you there. I also have to visit my father. Haha. Let's not talk about this first. I'm here today to look for you, Renbiao. I have some serious business. Li Zixuan put down his teacup and sat up straight. He said seriously, Renbiao, you should have heard of the Azure Glass Cup, and Divine Mirror in the Curious Pavilion recently, right? That's right. He was here today to talk about cooperation. Since the Curious Pavilion had already started to sell glass products, he naturally wanted to maximize the profit. Just like before, he planned to monopolize the Chang'an market. As for the other markets, he still wanted to let Wang Renbiao act as his agent. They had a very good foundation for cooperation. Wang Renbiao seemed to realize something. His eyes lit up and he said, Of course I've heard of it. Xiao Xian, what do you mean? That's right. I want to cooperate with you, Renbiao. Renbiao, haven't you thought about this before? Wang Renbiao quickly replied, Of course I have. I even talked to shopkeeper's son about it, but he said that the production of these things is limited and can't even meet the demand in Chang'an. So I can only wait for your workshop to expand its production before I make any plans. Li Zixuan nodded and said with a smile, So that's how it is. But Renbiao, there's something you might not know. The Curious Pavilion's workshop will be moved to the vicinity of Yunshan in the near future. The area and scale of the new workshop will be more than 5 times larger than it is now. When the time comes, we will be able to recruit more craftsmen. Correspondingly, the workshop will also produce more azure glass cups, divine mirror, and those things like "don't touch me" from before. When the time comes, I'll need you to help me distribute these products to various places. Chapter 482. Azure Dragon Lane, Wang Residence. Wang Renbiao's face lit up with excitement after hearing Li Zixuan's words. He smiled and said, "That's great. This business is exactly what the Wang family is looking for." Li Zixuan asked, "Renbiao, how many goods can you take?" He had to make a budget so that the workshop could make the necessary arrangements in advance. Wang Renbiao pondered for a moment, then smiled confidently. "Oh, the Azure Glaze Cup, and the Immortal Mirror, I can buy as many as you have. As for the new carriage, don't touch me. Even if the Strange Interest Pavilion's workshop expands, it won't be able to produce much in a month. So, little Xian, you don't have to worry about not being able to sell your goods. You can take as many as I have? Renbiao, aren't you a little too arrogant? You should know that the Azure Glass Cup, and Immortal Mirror are not cheap." Li Zixuan raised his eyebrows and said in surprise. Wang Renbiao smiled and said, "Haha. It's not that I'm arrogant, but you underestimate the Wang family. Putting aside the Wang clan, any one of the 7 great clans would be able to swallow this business deal. Of course, there are definitely many clans who want to work with you, little Xian. However, I, Wang Renbiao, am rather fortunate to be able to obtain your permission before them. Moreover, Chang'an is not the only place with rich people in Tang. There are many rich merchants in other states and counties, especially in Jiangnan and Suang. People there are very interested in the Azure Glass Cup, and Immortal Mirror. No matter how expensive these things are, they won't be able to sell." In the early Tang Dynasty, although the people were generally poor, there was no shortage of rich people. This was the case in any era. The Azure Glass Cup, and Immortal Mirror were the most excellent tools for the rich to show off. Wang Renbiao had long understood these people's hearts, which was why he said so. "Haha. Since you said so, I'm relieved. The workshop will expand production as soon as possible. When the time comes, I'll hand over all the goods that Chang'an can't take. As for the cooperation method, let's do it like before. I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first." Li Zixuan stood up and waved his hand. Previously, the Wang family had taken on the task of distributing the scooter, Drunken Immortal, Gentle Village, and Datang daily to all parts of the country except for Chang'an. Therefore, when they worked together again, there was no need to explain anything else. "Since little Xian is busy, I won't force you to stay. I'll send you off." Wang Renbiao also stood up and walked Li Zixuan to the gate with Leng Yuyao. The two of them cupped their fists and bid farewell. At this moment, Leng Yuyao suddenly asked, "I heard that Li Xianan has broken through to the Supreme Power Realm. Is that true?" Li Zixuan was stunned. He did not expect that the cold-faced beauty, who had been silent for a long time, would actually speak to him. He nodded and smiled. "There is indeed such a thing. What does Miss Yu Yao have to say?" A rare blush appeared on Leng Yuyao's face as she said, "I don't dare to teach you. I'm just curious as to why you're able to advance so quickly in your martial arts at such a young age. I wonder if you can share a thing or two with me." Aside from Wang Renbiao, the only thing that Leng Yuyao cared about in this world was martial arts. Therefore, although she was a little unhappy with Li Zixuan before, she still braced herself to ask for his advice at this moment. Wang Renbiao looked at Leng Yuyao thoughtfully, but he did not blame her for being rude. "Haha. Why can't I say it? Since Miss Yu Yao wants to hear it, then I'll tell you briefly." Li Zixuan did not use this opportunity to make fun of Leng Yuyao. He thought for a moment before replying, "On the path of martial arts, studying hard and practicing hard is never wrong. However, I've always been busy with mundane affairs, so I'm definitely not as diligent as you in practicing martial arts. Therefore, ever since I left the mountain and returned home, my martial arts have been stagnant and have not made any progress." At this point, Li Zixuan paused. After Ling Yuyao heard it, she almost vomited blood. It was really infuriating to compare oneself to others. The reason why I was able to break through this time was mainly due to my comprehension. I comprehended some Tao from a very mysterious Taoist martial art. Coupled with the life and death crisis I encountered during the assassination, it stimulated all the potential in my body, and finally, I broke through in one fell swoop. Therefore, in short, my martial arts is based on comprehension, so it may not be suitable for you. Everyone has their own martial arts path, and it's impossible to be the same. Li Zixuan said these words sincerely. Ling Yuyao's nature was not bad, and she even helped him once before. If he could help Ling Yuyao improve on her martial arts path, Li Zixuan would be very happy. "Thank you." After listening, Ling Yuyao thought for a moment, and then solemnly cupped her fist and said to Li Zixuan, You're welcome. You're welcome." Li Zixuan was a little uncomfortable being treated so politely all of a sudden, and hurriedly waved his hand. "Oh, that's right. Xiao Xian. The assassin who tried to assassinate you that day, did you catch him?" At this time, Wang Rinbiao asked. "Not yet. How can it be so fast?" Li Zixuan shook his head and said, "His Majesty has already ordered the imperial government to step up the investigation, and Magistrate Hua also personally asked me for clues. I also told him everything, but there's no progress so far." Wang Rinbiao pinched his chin and said in a low voice for a moment, "Xiao Xian, if it's convenient for you, tell us the specific details of the assassination that day. Yao has been in the martial arts world for more than 10 years, so she might be able to find some clues." Ling Yuyao also nodded at this moment and cast her gaze on Li Zixuan. "What's there to be inconvenient about? I'll tell you all again now." Li Zixuan's heart skipped a beat. According to Qin Qiong's analysis, the black-cloved assassin was very likely from an unknown evil sect in the martial arts world. However, Qin Qiong knew very little about the forces in the martial arts world today, but Ling Yuyao was different. She was able to reach this level at such a young age, and Li Zixuan definitely didn't believe that she didn't have a master behind her. Regarding the martial arts world, she should know a lot more than Qin Qiong, so he might be able to get some clues from Ling Yuyao. "It's like this. That evening, I brought," Li Zixuan recalled for a moment and recounted all the details before and after the assassination in detail, including Qin Qiong's guesses and analysis a few days ago. "Seventh cultivator of true blood palm? Seventh cultivator of true blood rain? He's. After listening to Li Zixuan's detailed description, Ling Yuyao's face suddenly changed, and she exclaimed, "Who is it? Miss Yuyao, could it be that you know something?" Li Zixuan quickly asked. Chapter 483. In front of Wang Rinbiao's house, Li Zixuan stared at Ling Yuyao with an expectant look, hoping to hear the whereabouts of the black-clothed assassin from her. That afternoon, the black-clothed assassin had threatened to take revenge and kill Li Zixuan's entire family. Li Zixuan wasn't willing to let go of such a person who could threaten him in the dark at any time. If there was a chance, he would definitely eliminate the source of trouble. "Surely, Yuyao knows something about that assassin." Ling Yuyao thought for a moment and said with slight hesitation, "Miss Ling, please tell me. I, Li Zixuan, will definitely reward you handsomely if you can get any clues about that person." Li Zixuan hurriedly cupped his fists and said sincerely. Wang Rinbiao could see the anxiety in Li Zixuan's eyes and also said to Ling Yuyao, "Yao, if you know any clues, don't hesitate to tell me. You don't have to hold back." Ling Yuyao nodded and said, "Yes, young master." Then, she turned to Li Zixuan and said, "Sir Li, although Yuyao doesn't know the specific identity of that assassin, according to your description, I can guess his origin. In the past, Yu Yao heard from my master that there's an evil sect in the Qinling Mountains called the Seven Cultivators sect. Although it's small, it has a peak Grandmaster realm expert. The Seven Cultivators sect's secret technique is the Seven Cultivators blood transformation palm. The Seven Cultivators sect? Miss Ling, do you know where this Seven Cultivators sect is located? Li Zixuan's expression shook as he asked in a deep voice. As for Ling Yuyao's words about the peak Grandmaster realm expert in the Seven Cultivators sect, he didn't care at all. Although he wasn't a match for a peak Grandmaster realm expert in a one-on-one fight, if someone threatened him, Li Zixuan, he would find a way to kill them even if they were protected by a Grandmaster realm expert. Ling Yuyao shook her head and recalled, I don't know the exact location of the Seven Cultivator of True Virtue sect. In the past, the sect that Yu Yao belonged to had a grudge with the Seven Cultivators sect. An evil cultivator from that sect once abducted one of Yu Yao's junior sisters. When my master found out about it, he was furious and brought several martial uncles with him to chase after that person. According to my master, they chased him all the way to the depths of the Qinling Mountains. Then, they saw that thief climbing a steep mountain peak shrouded in black fog. At the foot of the mountain, there was a boundary stone with the words Spirit Snake Mountain written on it. Master, martial uncles and martial uncles dismounted and climbed up the mountain. Not only was the mountain path steep, it was also filled with all kinds of poisonous snake. Furthermore, the entire mountain seemed to be filled with poisonous fog. Master and the others had only stayed inside for a quarter of an hour, but they were already showing signs of being poisoned. Furthermore, Master could faintly feel a very strong pressure at the top of the mountain. Martial uncle and martial uncle knew that it was impossible, so they persuaded Master to return to the sect and make further plans. Master had no choice but to leave with hatred. Seven Cultivators of True Virtue. Snake Spirit Mountain. Li Zixuan's expression gradually turned solemn. He propped up his chin and said with a frown, Miss Ling, has this Seven Cultivators sect ever accepted any assassination missions to earn money? I've never heard of it before. Although the people of the Seven Cultivators sect have done a lot of outrageous things, they have never assassinated an important official of the imperial court. To some extent, the Seventh Cultivator of True Virtue sect has always been very low-key in Jianghu, and only a few people know about it. If their sect specialized in assassination, they wouldn't be as unknown as they are now. Ling Yuyao pondered for a long time and shook her head. Li Zixuan was even more puzzled. He muttered to himself, That's strange. I don't have any grudges with the Seven Cultivators sect. But that day, when I heard that assassins say that the matters of the pugilistic world shall be settled in the pugilistic world, it sounded as if there was a deep hatred between us. What's the reason for this? Although according to Ling Yuyao's words, the Seven Cultivators sect was very suspicious and should indeed be suppressed, Li Zixuan still felt that there was something fishy about this matter. Right now, he only wanted to find the real culprit. He didn't want to care about the other grudges of the pugilistic world. The matters of the pugilistic world shall be settled in the pugilistic world. I understand now. Ling Yuyao was startled for a moment and suddenly said loudly, I wonder if Lord Li remembers the Battle of Northern Mang Mountain's Bloody Wind stronghold a few months ago? Li Zixuan didn't know what she meant. He looked at Ling Yuyao with a baffled expression and nodded. Of course I remember. Ling Yuyao then continued, At that time, Lord Zhu went to Mang Mountain alone and challenged the Bloody Wind stronghold. Did you personally kill a young man named Flying Snake? Li Zixuan seemed to have guessed something. His brows furrowed even deeper. After pausing for a while, he nodded and said, There is indeed such a person. Now that you mention it, I remember that Flying Snake's strange movement technique is 80% similar to the assassin who tried to assassinate me that day. Could it be that there is some connection between the two of them? Ling Yuyao replied, when the Bloody Wind stronghold group kidnapped Lord Ju's wife at Rhinoceros Slope, I saw Flying Snake make a move. That move is undoubtedly from the Seven Cultivators sect. Since Lord Ju killed Flying Snake, Yu Yao guessed that it was the elders of Flying Snake's sect who came to seek revenge. Bang! Li Zixuan punched the wall next to him and said hatefully, "Humph! Seven Cultivators sect. Flying Snake? They provoked me time and time again. Do they really think I'm made of mud?" At the side, Wang Renbiao looked at the deeply sunken wall. The corner of his mouth twitched as he said, "Little Xian, this matter was caused by my second brother. My Wang family is willing to help you deal with the Seven Cultivators sect with all our strength." Flying Snake and Xiao Ying had joined hands to kidnap Han Yushi. In the end, it was Wang Renyi who ordered them to do so. Now that Flying Snake was killed and the Seven Cultivators sect came to seek revenge, it was reasonable to say that this matter was related to the Wang family. Li Zixuan waved his hand and stared at Wang Renbiao, saying, "That is that. Provincial Governor Wang has already given me an explanation for the previous matter. What I want to know now is whether the assassin that day has anything to do with the Wang family. After all, your second brother hates me to the bone. Will he use Flying Snake's death to instigate the Seven Cultivators sect to assassinate me?" Although many people knew that Li Zixuan had attacked the Bloody Wind stronghold with his sword, not many people knew the details, including the killing of Flying Snake. Therefore, Li Zixuan had reason to suspect that the assassin was instigated by someone. Wang Renbiao was shocked. He quickly shook his head and said, "Impossible, absolutely impossible. After that incident, my second brother has been imprisoned by my father in the Wang family's ancestral home. The people of the disciplinary hall are guarding him day and night. There's no way he can come in contact with outsiders. Little Xian, if you're still worried, I'll write a letter and ask my father to personally investigate my second brother's situation in the past few months." "There's no need for that. I believe you." Li Zixuan waved his hand and said, "In any case, that assassin is definitely related to the Seven Cultivators of True Virtue. Regardless of whether or not someone is stirring up trouble behind the scenes, I have to flatten this sect first and then investigate the person behind him. I have to thank Miss Ling for the information today. Renbiao, I'll take my leave first." Chapter 484. After leaving the Wang family in a hurry, Li Zixuan did not even return home. Instead, he went straight to the government office. After explaining his identity to the government servant at the door, Li Zixuan was invited to a side hall at the back of the government office. After about 15 minutes, Yin Wenjie of the government office walked in wearing a purple official robe. He cupped his hands and smiled at Li Zixuan. "Yo, Li Zhanshi, may I know why you are here today?" Things were different now. Li Zixuan was the Crown Prince Zixuan, a rising star of the empire. He was no longer the little teacher of the Imperial College. Even Hua Wenjie had to be polite when he saw him. "Haha. Greetings, Magistrate Hua. I have something I need your help with today." Li Zixuan did not put on airs. He politely bowed back to Hua Wenjie and smiled. Hua Wenjie's eyes flashed. Almost instantly, he realized that what Li Zixuan wanted to say was related to the assassination case. Normally, he did not have any contact with Li Zixuan. If there was any interaction, it would only be the assassination case a few days ago. Thinking of this, Hua Wenjie's expression brightened. He quickly waved his hands and dismissed his servant. He sat down beside Li Zixuan and said, "Li Zixuan, if you have something to say, just say it. As long as it is within my power, I will definitely do my best to help." Li Zixuan nodded and said, "I think Magistrate Hua can also guess a thing or two." "That's right, I am here today because of the assassin. I have already investigated the assassin's background, but I need Magistrate Hua to help me find the assassin's hiding place." Li Zhanshi, quickly say it. Where did the assassin come from? Hua Wenjie's face flashed with a hint of excitement as he quickly said. Actually, he was bitter in his heart. The 10-day deadline given by Li Er was about to arrive, but the constables of the governor's office failed to find any useful clues. On the contrary, many ruffians and scoundrels in Chang'an City were arrested these days. It couldn't be said that the bailiffs of the capital government were incompetent. It was just that Li Zixuan had provided too few clues. They knew nothing about the black-clothed assassin's appearance, age, background, and so on. How could the bailiffs catch him? This era was not like the modern era, where there were surveillance cameras in key places. When there was a murder case, one could find the murderer through the surveillance cameras at each intersection. The investigation of this era relied on the clues left behind by the murderer to gradually investigate. The worst part was that Li Zixuan could provide very little useful information to the capital government. How could the bailiffs even begin their investigation? Now that Li Zixuan could provide the identity and origin of the assassin, how could Hua Wenjie not be excited? At least he could keep his official position. According to my investigation, the assassin came from a small sect in the depths of the Qinling Mountains called the Seven Cultivators of True Virtue. That sect is located at a place called the Serpent Mountain. Today, I came here to ask Magistrate Hua to send someone to help me find out where the Serpent Mountain is located in the Qinling Mountains. Once you find out, I will deal with them. Li Zixuan looked at Hua Wenjie and said with a serious face, "Seven Cultivators Sect? Snake Spirit Mountain?" Hua Wenjie muttered a few words and then nodded. "Okay. This old man will send someone to investigate. If there is any news, I will inform Li Zhanshe immediately." "Thank you for your trouble." "Thank you." Li Zixuan cupped his hands and thanked him. The Qinling Mountains traversed the central part of China, starting from southern Gansu in the west, passing through southern Shaanxi to western Hunan. Its main body was located at the junction of southern Shaanxi and northern Sichuan provinces. It was about 1,500 kilometers long from east to west, including hundreds of mountains of various sizes. If Li Zixuan didn't have anyone to help him, who knew how long it would take him to find it? The next day, on top of the Cloud Mountain, the morning sun reflected the rosy clouds, covering the whole mountain with a golden coat, making it look exceptionally beautiful. The craftsmen who got up early to work were running around, digging foundations, building walls, quarrying rocks, chopping trees, and sawing wood. The division of labor was clear, and the scene was bustling with activity. At 7:45 a.m., a convoy of 4 or 5 ox carts arrived at the top of the mountain along the mountain path. Some of the sharp-eyed workers guessed that the boss had sent something good to the workers again. "Faubert, why are you here?" The shed that Yan Xiaoning stayed in during the day was very close to the mountain gate. He raised his head and saw Faubert in front of the convoy, so he quickly stopped his work and went out to greet him. "Ha! Young Master Yan, this old man is here to send you new materials today," Faubert said to Yan Xiaoning with a smile as he directed the crowd to unload the bags of cement. "New materials? Is that all? What are they used for?" Yan Xiaoning didn't know that the workshop was secretly developing cement during this period of time. He was busy with the division of labor at the construction site. "Ha! This is the cement that the workshop made according to Lord Ju's instructions. It is used to replace the cement mortar and used to build walls. This stuff can not only be used to build walls, but it can also be used to build roads. Lord Ju said that the roads of the academy will be paved with a layer of cement mixed with sand and stones in the future," Faubert said with a sense of accomplishment as he stroked his beard. "Cement? Why is this name so weird? Is this stuff really that easy to use?" Yan Xiaoning opened a bag of cement and looked at the gray powder inside as he asked doubtfully. Faubert nodded and said, "Of course. The craftsmen in the cement workshop have all done experiments before. There is no problem at all. Xiaoning, you can let someone try it now." Young master said that the construction of the academy must be done with cement in the future. Okay, I will try it. Faubert, how do I use this stuff? Yan Xiaoning nodded in agreement after hearing Faubert's solemn answer. Haha, this is simple. Let me tell you the ratio of the water mixture. Done? That's it? But it doesn't look sturdy at all? If you push it hard with your hand, this wall will probably collapse. Under Faubert's guidance, the workers mixed some cement paste and then used it to build 2 walls. However, Yan Xiaoning felt that this thing wasn't very sturdy, so he asked Faubert. We still have to wait for the cement to solidify. Even if we use glutinous rice mortar, won't the newly built walls be very fragile? Xiaoning, you don't have to worry about these 2 walls today. You can take a look at it tomorrow. At that time, you will find out how magical this cement is. Generally, cement mortar will reach its final solidification after 5 to 8 hours at 20 degrees Celsius. At that time, it won't be able to move with fingers. Faubert was very confident about this, so he said to Yan Xiaoning with certainty. Okay. Then we will take a look at it tomorrow. If the effect is really good, then we won't buy glutinous rice mortar in the future. Yan Xiaoning thought for a while and nodded in agreement. In his opinion, Li Zixuan's foresight and decisiveness were very trustworthy. Chapter 485. Yaoer there. Send this letter to my father with a pigeon immediately. Azure Dragon Lane, Wang family residence. Wang Renbiao stuffed a slip of paper into a small bamboo tube, then handed it to Ling Yuyao and solemnly instructed. Yes, young master. Ling Yuyao took it with both hands. Seeing that Wang Renbiao had no other orders, she took the letter and left. Around 3000 BC, the ancient Egyptians started using pigeons to send letters. China was also an ancient country that raised pigeons. During the Sui and Tang dynasties, pigeons were used to send letters in places like Guangzhou in the south. Although pigeons were many times faster than relay stations, it was not something that ordinary people could afford. Pigeons were sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field, and they were especially homesick. This was their innate advantage. But to become a carrier pigeon, the main thing was training. The main purpose of raising carrier pigeons was to fly, compete, and use them. In order to obtain an ideal carrier pigeon, other than careful breeding and scientific breeding, the most important thing was training. The training of a carrier pigeon was very complicated. It had to be trained from a young pigeon, from simple to complicated, from near to far, from day to night, and from basic training to professional training. Therefore, an ideal carrier pigeon was very expensive to train. Even if it was a rich family, they would only use carrier pigeons for urgent letters. This was because carrier pigeons could also encounter accidents on the road. Huff! Let's hope that my father can react in time. Now that the cooperation between the Wang and Li families is about to start, we can't let anything go wrong at this crucial time. After seeing Ling Yuyao off, Wang Renbiao looked out the door with his hands behind his back and muttered to himself. At the same time, more than half of the guards in the capital office followed Dugu Xin and the imperial army out of the city. To a certain extent, this operation of the capital office not only had a certain degree of risk, but it also had a hint of unusual meaning. Ever since the establishment of the Tang Dynasty, the imperial court and the martial arts world had almost never had a direct confrontation. On one hand, the martial arts sects were very weak at this time. As long as no one was stupid enough to deliberately cause trouble, the imperial court would not take those sects seriously. Of course, the absolute disparity in strength also made the sects in the Jianghu abide by the rules and regulations in recent years. No one dared to go against the imperial court, much less assassinate an important official of the imperial court. It had to be said that the black-clothed man who tried to assassinate Li Zixuan had taken the lead this time. Moreover, he was the one who did not please either the martial arts world or the imperial court. Even though the imperial court was not afraid of these martial artists, The regular yamen runners of the imperial government were. That was why Magistrate Hua had invited Dugu Xian to lead the imperial army to help. In any case, Li Er had said that Dugu Xian would help him. It would be a waste not to use such a powerful helper. Once Dugu Xian made his move, Li Er would naturally receive the news. After all, Li Er had absolute control over all the armies of the Great Tang. Any movement of the imperial army had to be approved by him. Humph! 7 cultivators of true virtue? Snake Spirit Mountain? How dare you? Li Er leaned over the imperial table and supported his chin with his hand, as he said angrily. In front of him was the secret memorial written by Hua Wenjie. I don't care who the sect leader of the 7 cultivators of virtue is. If you don't give me an explanation for challenging the authority of the imperial court, I will annihilate your sect. Li Er thought coldly as he closed the secret memorial. What is this gray thing? You guys are actually using it to build walls? On Cloud Mountain, Li Tai had just ordered his team to transport back a batch of wood. However, he saw that the usual yellow glutinous rice mortar had disappeared and was replaced by a gray paste that he had never seen before. Furthermore, the workers were still using it to build walls. He could not help but mutter to himself in confusion. This is the latest cement developed by the workshop. It's specifically used to replace glutinous rice mortar. It's said that once this thing solidifies, it's even more durable than glutinous rice mortar. Furthermore, this thing can be brushed on the surface of walls and roads to form a flat and hard outer layer. Yan Xiaoning, who was also observing the cement mortar, walked over and said, "Is it really that magical? But I think this thing is just a pile of gray mud. It doesn't seem as amazing as you said, Xiaoning." Li Tai's eyes widened as he said in disbelief, "Oh, I also heard about this. As for whether it's really that magical, we'll know tomorrow." Yan Xiaoning frowned and said, in fact, he was also skeptical about this. Then let's wait and see tomorrow." Li Tai stopped and looked for a while, then shook his head and said. The next day, Li Zishuan also woke up early. He had to go to Cloud Mountain to see the actual effect and reaction of the cement. As for Li Tai, that follower, he had not come over for a few days. Every day, he went to Cloud Mountain by himself. The main reason was that Li Zishuan rarely went to the construction site after he started at Cloud Mountain and assigned all the tasks. Li Tai could only curse him in his heart for his lazy nature. Following the mountain path to the peak of Cloud Mountain, he saw a few cement walls that were as tall as 2 people standing not far from the mountain gate. The surrounding ground was also gray cement. Now, there was a circle of people surrounding the place. Li Zishuan smiled and walked over. This road is hard and flat. Even if it's raining, it won't be affected at all. I didn't expect this. This cement is actually so magical. An old craftsman touched the road with his hand and exclaimed emotionally, "Damn! Little Xian may not be good at other things, but he's still reliable when it comes to researching new things. Xiaoning, this cement is really better than glutinous rice mortar. Haha. This cement road is not bad. It's even smoother than the limestone road. No. This prince's palace also needs to use cement to level the road in the future." Li Tai touched here and there, then he jumped up and patted Yan Xiaoning's shoulder as he laughed heartily. As for why he jumped up, cough, of course it was because of his height. This little fatty only ate and did not exercise since he was young. His horizontal development was too great, and his vertical development was basically not much. Li Zishuan had just walked to the periphery of the crowd when he heard the little fatty's words. His old face could not help but darken. He quickly walked up to Li Tai and slapped him on the back of his head. "What do you mean by I can't do anything? Qinke, tell your master which part of me can't do?" As a man, the taboo thing was for others to say that he couldn't do anything. This already involved a man's dignity. Li Zishuan was not willing to let this little fatty off easily. Chapter 486. Cough cough. So it's Xiao Xian. Why are you here today? Li Tai, who was in an extremely complacent and overly excited state, was almost scared out of his wits by this sudden attack. When he heard Li Zixuan's words that carried a slightly dangerous aura, the little fatty hurriedly changed to a smiling face and jested. Humph. Don't try to change the topic. What did you say just now? It seems like you have a lot of opinions about me. Why don't we find a time to have a good chat? Li Zixuan lightly patted the dust on Li Tai's shoulder and said with a faint smile. No 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 no. Li Tai shook his head like a rattledrum, and this guy even showed Li Zixuan a unique skill, saying 32 in 3 seconds. He continued, Ha ha. Xiao Xian, you must have heard wrongly. I didn't say anything bad just now, I was just praising the workshop's new cement. If you don't believe me, ask Xiaoning. Am I right? Xiaoning? Li Tai pulled Yan Xiaoning's arm and winked. Li Zixuan was dumbfounded by this fatty's unique skill. He shook his head, and without waiting for Yan Xiaoning to cover up for the little fatty, he said, Hee hee. I'll settle this with you later. After saying that, he walked forward and began to check the quality of the cement wall and the cement road. After pressing and hammering everywhere, Li Zixuan turned around and smiled at Yan Xiaoning with extreme satisfaction. Xiaoning? How is it? This cement can completely replace glutinous rice mortar, right? Yan Xiaoning nodded and said, Of course it can, and it's even better than that. Glutinous rice mortar can't satisfy the functions that cement can achieve. Also, I feel that the academy you designed can only match the design style of Yanhuang College if it's built with cement. Heh. Li Zixuan laughed in his heart. Yan Xiaoning's taste was really good. Yanhuang College's design style was based on modern universities. If it wasn't built with cement, of course it would look quite strange. Haha. That's good. That's good. In the future, the workshop will fully supply the cement for the construction site. In terms of construction costs, we will save a lot of money. In this way, we only need to build the academy step by step, Li Zixuan said with a smile as he stood up and led Yan Xiaoning and Li Tai to the shed. And then? Yan Xiaoning glanced at Li Zixuan in annoyance, as if he had seen through all the conspiracies in the world. Then there's no then, Li Zixuan said awkwardly. Haha. Then you won't have to come here every day, right? F***ck. I knew it, little Xian, your stomach is filled with lazy bugs. Yan Xiaoning said rather crazily. Yes, Xiaoning is right. Little Xian, you are really filled with lazy bugs. When Dr. Sun comes to Chang next time, you must ask him to treat you properly. Li Tai felt deeply about this. A few days ago, he was privately complaining about Li Zixuan's laziness. In the beginning, he could come to the construction site every day, but he only came once every 2 or 3 days. What was worse was that according to Li Zixuan's words, he might not come in the future. This boss was really infuriating. Chinke. Looks like we need to have a good talk. Li Zixuan squeezed a piece of cement in his hand lightly, and it instantly turned into powder. Then, he looked at Li Tai and asked calmly. No. Li Tai showed off his unique skill again, and then waved his hand and said, Haha, you should talk to Xiaoning slowly. I have to bring my team to do a mission. After saying that, he turned and ran away. Li Zixuan then stopped joking and said to Yan Xiaoning seriously, Xiaoning, it's not that I'm lazy, but I have other things to do recently. The academy is already on the right track. Whether it's the funds or the allocation of personnel, they are all in place. I don't think there will be any more problems. When I'm done with this, I will come again to take a look. Yan Xiaoning saw that Li Zixuan was serious and didn't seem to be joking. He also became serious and asked, Little Xian, are you in trouble? If you need help, just let me know. Even if I can't help you, my father can think of a way to help you. Haha, it's nothing. I can solve this myself. shouting, "You can focus on building the academy." Li Zishuan waved his hand and said casually. This was his personal grudge, and he didn't want to drag his good brother into it. Okay. Since you don't want to say more, I won't ask. Anyway, if you need help, just let me know. Yan Xiaoning was silent for a while and sighed. Haha. Good brother. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Feiji. The brothers have been patrolling around the mansion for the past few days. Did you notice anything strange? In the afternoon, Li Zishuan called the security captain, at home, Brother Chicken, over and asked in a deep voice. Strange? I didn't hear anything strange from the brothers? Lord Zhu, what's wrong? Did something happen? Pang Feiji was confused at first, then asked in a panic. The security captain was also under a lot of pressure. Nothing. But recently, ask the brothers to be more alert. If they notice an unknown master sneaking in, don't fight blindly. Warn them immediately to avoid unnecessary deaths and injuries. Li Zishuan thought for a while and said seriously to Brother Chicken. Lord Zhu, could it be that there will be more assassins? Pang Feiji's eyes suddenly lit up and he asked with a little excitement. Brother Chicken had been idle for so long, he expressed that his big knife was thirsty for blood. Of course, he would be excited if there were blind people coming to him. Well, it's possible. I've already found out the identity of the assassin who tried to assassinate me a few days ago. He's from a sect, and I'm afraid that he'll bring his sect members to seek revenge. At this point, Li Zishuan glanced at Brother Chicken and said, Don't get any ideas. Don't underestimate these Jianghu people. This sect has masters at the peak of master stage. Brothers, if you meet them, don't be rash. Peak of master stage. Brother Chicken was secretly speechless and scared. But after a moment, he came to his senses and said, Lord Zhu, this is Chang'an. Even if he is at the great guru realm, I don't think he would dare to behave atrociously here. But we can't always be on guard like this. Why don't my brothers and I follow you to destroy that stupid sect? Chapter 487. Let's destroy that shitty sect together? Li Zishuan murmured. Then, he looked at Brother Chicken and said with a faint smile, All right. I'll take you guys to destroy that sect in a few days. Feiji, you'll be the vanguard. Brother Chicken was dumbfounded. He was just shouting the slogan to show his loyalty. How could he dare to face a peak Grand Master? Wasn't that courting death? Cough cough. Lord Zhu, this. Brother Chicken stuttered for a long time, not knowing how to smooth things over. He was extremely embarrassed. Haha. Look at how scared you are. Li Zishuan waved his hand and said with a smile, I'm just teasing you. Revenge must be taken, but I, Li Zishuan, won't let my brothers die for nothing. It's said that the terrain of Snake Spirit Mountain is full of poisonous miasma. If we attack it by force, there will be a lot of casualties. We must have a foolproof plan. Besides, we haven't found the specific location of Snake Spirit Mountain yet. We'll make another plan after we get the news from the government. If the 7 cultivators of virtue is willing to hand over the murderer, then it's fine. If they don't, then I have a way to teach them a lesson. Lord Zhu, I, Old Pang, am not afraid. My head is as big as a bowl, what's there to be afraid of? When you want to destroy the 7 cultivators of virtue, remember to call me along. Perhaps Li Zishuan's confidence had infected Pang Feiji. Brother Chicken's face was flushed as he shouted loudly. Haha. Alright. I'll bring you along if I need you. In the depths of Qinling Mountain, a huge mountain stood between the heavens and the earth. The mountain was as tall as the sky, and it was covered with lush trees. They were so dense that it seemed as if they were going to cover the entire mountain without letting the wind in. The strange thing was that the other mountains were filled with the chirping of insects and birds, but this mountain was eerily quiet. Even the birds in the sky took the initiative to take a detour when they were about to reach this mountain. In the forest, A winding mountain path could be vaguely seen. If one looked carefully, they would find that the whole mountain was surrounded by a faint black fog, which looked extremely evil. And at the bottom of this mountain, there was a huge rock that was half the height of a person. On it there were 3 blood-red words, Snake Spirit Mountain. At the top of the mountain, houses of various sizes were sparsely distributed. One could vaguely see groups of 2 or 3 young people dressed in green robes walking on the small paths. The sleeves of their robes were embroidered with a giant 7-headed snake, looking exceptionally terrifying. This was the headquarters of the 7 cultivators of virtue. Junior brother, you are really muddle-headed. That Li Zishuan is the founding father of the dynasty. Now, he is the crown prince, Zhan Shi. How could you dare to assassinate him? In a secret room, a tall man with red hair said to the thin man in black who was meditating in the corner, Senior brother, ever since I returned to the sect the day before yesterday, how many times have you said these words to me? That Li Zishuan killed my most beloved disciple. If I don't exterminate his entire family, how can I still call myself the Snake King? How can I face my disciple who died so tragically? So what if he was a county man? If worse comes to worst, I will perish together with him. The skinny man opened his eyes and roared angrily. Looking at his eyes, his figure, and his words, it was clear that he was the black-masked assassin who tried to assassinate Li Zishuan a few days ago, Snake King. Flying Snake was his disciple. Flying Snake was really unlucky that day. As a middle-stage grandmaster, he tried to assassinate Li Zishuan, a small fry who was half a step away from the supreme power realm. Not only did he fail to kill Li Zishuan in seconds, but he also almost lost his head. Even though he managed to survive, his last move to escape consumed a lot of his life potential, which directly led to a great loss of his strength. Now, he was basically equivalent to a martial artist who had just entered the supreme power realm. At that time, he was covered in injuries and his true chi was almost exhausted. However, he didn't dare to return to the sect to heal his injuries immediately because there were hundreds of Imperial guards chasing after him. After stumbling and hiding for several days, Snake King took advantage of the fact that the wind was gradually calming down and secretly returned to the sect. The Snake King of a generation was reduced to such a pitiful state. Foolish. Stupid. Since ancient times, the common people have never fought with the government. Our sect should have just stayed put and quietly made a fortune. Why did you have to provoke the imperial court? The current emperor has a strong army under him. How can a small sect like the 7 cultivators of true virtue provoke him? You're forcing the 7 cultivators of true virtue to a dead end. The red-haired man glared at him and scolded angrily. What was even more strange was that his eyes were also red. Senior brother, don't worry. I won't implicate the sect. When I tried to assassinate Li Zishuan that day, I was masked. No one knows my true identity. And no one knows that I'm from the 7 cultivators of true virtue. Snake King snorted with dissatisfaction. Bullshit. The red-haired man angrily punched the stone wall next to him and roared. I heard a disciple say this morning that a large number of the Imperial Court's troops appeared in the periphery of the Qinling Mountains. I'm afraid Li Zishuan has already investigated your background. Our 7 cultivators of true virtue is in danger. What? That's impossible. Snake King's face suddenly changed. He stood up and muttered, Impossible. I haven't walked around in Jianghu for more than 10 years. Plus, I was masked that day. How could anyone recognize me? Maybe those troops aren't here for the 7 cultivators of true virtue? The red-haired man coldly snorted and said, I hope they aren't here for us. Otherwise, the 7 cultivators of true virtue will definitely suffer a calamity. Snake King had already calmed down at this time. He expressionlessly said, If they are really here for us, senior brother can just hand me over. I, Snake King, will bear the consequences of my own actions. I won't implicate the sect. As soon as his voice fell, the temperature in the stone room suddenly dropped to the freezing point. The red-haired man's face alternated between blue and white. After a while, he flicked his sleeves and roared, "Bastard! Do you think I, Ian Batian, am a despicable person who would betray my fellow junior brother in exchange for my own safety? Even if you made a mistake, I, as your senior brother, will shoulder it with you. At worst, the entire 7 cultivators of true virtue will die with us." "Senior brother," Snake King was startled. A touched expression appeared on his face as he said, "I've implicated senior brother this time. Although I, Ian Batian, won't betray my fellow disciples, junior brother, you were too reckless this time. If the 7 cultivators of true virtue can escape this calamity, you'll have to reflect on your actions. The imperial court isn't something we can provoke." Ian Batian waved his hand and said unhappily. His face was still clouded over. "Senior brother is right. But senior brother, why are you so pessimistic? Snake Spirit Mountain is full of poisonous miasma and is a natural stronghold. It's easy to defend and hard to attack. Moreover, our 7 cultivators of true virtue has a peak grandmaster like you. If the imperial court wants to flatten our sect, they'll have to pay with 10,000 lives." Snake King gave Ian Batian some face and admitted his mistake verbally. Then, he said with a ruthless face. Chapter 488. Snake King was right. The 7 cultivators of true virtue was a natural stronghold surrounded by cliffs. There was only one mountain path leading to the 7 cultivators of true virtue, and this mountain path was winding and had many dangerous passes. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that one man could hold the pass while 10,000 men couldn't pass. Not to mention, the Snake Spirit Mountain was full of poisonous miasma. If one came, one would die. The reason why the disciples of the 7 cultivators of true virtue weren't poisoned was because they had been taking the sect's special anti-poison pills all year round, so they were completely immune to the poison. Inside the secret chamber, Snake King saw that Ian Batian was hesitating and didn't say anything, so he continued to persuade him. "Senior brother, although Li Zishuan is in a high position now, I don't believe that Li Zishuan would be willing to take the lives of more than 10,000 people just to avenge his personal grudge. If those troops really come for us, we just need to set up ambushes at the various passes. Even if they don't die from the poison, they will be killed by the disciples of the 7 cultivators of true virtue. We just need to kill them until Li Zishuan feels heartache and withdraws his troops." This guy was getting more and more presumptuous. He even dared to call Li Er by his name. If outsiders heard him, they would definitely sue him for treason. However, Ian Batian didn't react. Apparently, he had heard similar words many times. At this moment, he silently stared at the stone wall and pondered for a while before saying, "But if we do that, won't our 7 cultivators of true virtue be in complete opposition to the imperial court? In the future, the disciples of our 7 cultivators of true virtue won't be able to move an inch in Great Tang, and the other righteous sects will also attack us. After all, junior brother, your assassination of an imperial court official is a big taboo in the martial world." Snake King sneered and said, "Senior brother, why are you so indecisive today? You only have 2 choices now. Either you hand me over in exchange for the imperial court's forgiveness, or you protect me and fight the imperial court to the end. After this incident, we'll go somewhere else and set up another sect." After saying this, Snake King paused for a moment and a trace of ridicule flashed on his face. "As for those righteous sects of the martial world, they're just a bunch of hypocrites. Hasn't our 7 cultivators of true virtue always been independent of the martial world? Why do we need to worry about their attitude?" It had to be said that Snake King was extremely arrogant. He did not even take the 3 great martial arts sects of the Central Plains seriously. Batian frowned. After pondering for a moment, he finally made up his mind and said, "It's impossible for me to hand over my fellow disciples. Now we can only fight to the death with the imperial court. If the imperial court is willing to take a step back, then we will take a step back too." Snake King smiled and cupped his hands in front of his chest. Thank you for your righteousness, senior brother. Humph. Recuperate well. I'll arrange for a few disciples to gather information at the foot of the mountain. Batian was a little unhappy to have encountered such an unexpected calamity. He waved his hand, gave some instructions, and walked out of the secret chamber. Inside the secret chamber, Snake King sat down cross-legged again. However, he was no longer in the mood to heal himself. He was thinking about how Li Zishuan was going to lead his troops to besiege Snake Spirit Mountain. Little bastard, you better come here personally this time. I'll make sure you die on Snake Spirit Mountain, Snake King said viciously. Then, he closed his eyes, calmed his mind, and continued to recuperate. Southeast of Chang'an City, Dunhua Square. In a mansion of a wealthy family. Exquisite pavilions, terraces and pavilions, secluded and beautiful corridors, as well as large rockery, an ancient stage, and exquisite jade were scattered in picturesque disorder in this enormous courtyard. Beautiful trees and exotic flowers could be seen. A clear stream zigzagged from the depths of the flowers and flowed under the stone crevices. A few steps further and gradually to the north, it was flat and wide. Buildings on both sides pierced into the air, and the carved sills were hidden between the trees. In the kernel looking down, there was a clear stream flowing with snow. Stone pillars pierced through the clouds. White stones formed a railing around the edge of the pool. There were 3 stone bridges, and the faces of beasts could be seen. Obviously, this was an extremely wealthy family. Granduncle, I heard that yesterday afternoon, the capital magistrate sent out a large group of Yamen runners. They followed Dugu Xian out of Chang'an City and headed to Qinling Mountain. They haven't returned to the city yet. In the depths of the courtyard, there was an elegant room. There was plenty of sunlight in the room, and there were luxurious furnishings. There were all kinds of beautiful carvings on the window, and there was a half-burned white candle on the table. In the room, a young man bowed to a white-haired old man who was half lying on the couch in front of him. The white-haired old man was like a man on the verge of death. He always looked listless. After a long time, he opened his mouth and asked, "What's the matter?" After a long time, he asked, "So, Li Zishuan has found out about Snake King's background?" The young man bowed and answered, "Most likely. Ever since the assassination, the imperial court hasn't given up on investigating Snake King. According to our informants, Li Zishuan went to the capital magistrate yesterday afternoon. Not long after he left, the capital magistrate and Dugu Xian acted at the same time. Therefore, I'm guessing that Li Zishuan most likely has clues about Snake King." "Humph. It's not 80%, it's 100%. The white-haired old man narrowed his eyes and snorted coldly. "Such a lousy person can't do anything right, but is good at spoiling things. However, I didn't expect Li Zishuan to be able to find Snake King's whereabouts so quickly. It seems that this kid didn't get to where he is today by luck. Then, granduncle, what should we do now?" The young man hesitated for a moment before asking, "Why, Xianji, are you afraid? Didn't you say that you weren't worried?" "Please forgive me, granduncle. I'm not afraid of personal honor or disgrace, but I'm afraid that my plan will bring disaster to the family," the young man said with sincerity. "Ha! Good boy. I didn't misjudge you." The white-haired old man laughed loudly. "Xianji, you don't have to worry. Your plan this time is very good. It's just that you used the wrong person. Even if that stupid thing is caught and spits out the truth, there's no evidence. The imperial court has no reason to convict us. Besides, it's still unknown whether the imperial court can catch him alive or not. The Snake Spirit Mountain is not a good place to go. You're so wise, granduncle. Xianji is impressed. The young man heaved a sigh of relief and cupped his hands. Don't flatter me, kid. Although the white-haired old man said that, he couldn't hide the smile on his face. He waved his hand and continued. Xuanji, although this matter has failed, you have shown granduncle your wisdom, so don't be discouraged. Think of other ways to get rid of this scourge, Li Zishuan, in the next few days. It's best if you can join forces with the other Lis. There's strength in numbers, after all. Haha. Yes, granduncle. Chapter 489. Husband, did something happen in the past few days? I've seen you with a worried frown on your face several times. Night. Li Mansion West Courtyard. Han Yushi asked softly while helping Li Zishuan undress. Well, something happened. Do you remember the assassin in the east of Chang'an City a few days ago? Li Zishuan nodded and said. Husband and wife were one. Besides, the Seven Cultivators sect was not a very powerful force in Li Zishuan's eyes, so he felt that there was no need to hide it from his wife. Han Yushi's hand that was holding the clothes suddenly trembled. She frowned and her voice suddenly became cold as she replied, Of course I remember. That person injured you. If I had the ability, I would definitely tear him into pieces. Li Zishuan chuckled, turned around, and pulled Han Yushi into his arms. Haha. Let the men do the fighting and killing. Wife, you just need to eat, drink, and rest well. Han Yushi angrily said, Eat, drink, and rest well? Wouldn't I become a pig? Haha. What's wrong with pigs? Pigs are the second smartest animals in the world. Go away. Husband, don't joke around, let's talk business. What did you mean by the assassin just now? Could it be that you met him again in the past few days? Han Yushi rolled her eyes at Li Zishuan and asked seriously. Oh, that's not it. Li Zishuan pulled Han Yushi to lie on the bed together and then continued. Yesterday, I accidentally heard the origin of the assassin from Wang Renbiao's house. It was said that he was from the Seven Cultivators sect of Snake Spirit Mountain. Then, I went to the capital office and asked Magistrate Hua to help me find the specific location of Snake Spirit Mountain. I think there should be a result in a few days. Snake Spirit Mountain? Han Yushi muttered it again. In the end, she still felt that she had never heard of it before. She then said, I hope that the capital government can bring this assassin to justice. Otherwise, my heart will always be uneasy. Although Li Zishuan knew in his heart that this matter would not be resolved so easily, he still comforted him. Of course. I'll definitely catch the assassin this time. Wife, let's rest early. Okay. This cement is really interesting. In the Sweet Dew Hall, the candlelight was still lit even in the middle of the night. Li Er played with a palm-sized cement block on the dragon table and smiled meaningfully. Beside him sat Empress Zhangsun. This husband and wife were not sleeping in the Li Zheng Hall in the middle of the night. Instead, they came to the Sweet Dew Hall to work. Who knew what they were thinking? Your Majesty, did Qingke bring this back today? Empress Zhangsun asked curiously. Haha. That's right. It's said that this is a new material that Li Zishuan asked the Strange Taste Pavilion Workshop to develop to replace glutinous rice mortar. Now, it seems that the effect is unexpectedly good. Li Er sighed and then handed a large piece of cement to Empress Zhangsun. Speaking of which, who knew where Li Tai broke a piece of cement road from the construction site and brought it back? It was estimated that some craftsman would curse again tomorrow. Wow. It's so sturdy. Your Majesty, is this large piece all made of cement? Empress Zhangsun took it and squeezed it with her hand. She was immediately shocked and asked hurriedly. Yes, indeed. The shaping ability of this cement is completely superior to that of glutinous rice mortar. Li Zishuan has brought a new, more practical, and cheaper thing to our Tang dynasty. Li Er sighed with emotion. Your Majesty, How did you know that this cement is cheaper than glutinous rice mortar? Empress Zhongsun asked curiously. Needless to say, it's easy to guess. If the cost of this thing is higher than that of glutinous rice mortar, why would Li Zishuan spend so much effort to study it? I estimate that the composition of this cement should be just some sand and lime. It doesn't contain any expensive raw materials. If Li Zishuan were here, he would definitely give Li Er a wave of 666, 6666. Old Li's preliminary guess was simply too awesome. In that case, if this cement had appeared 10 years earlier, wouldn't the city walls of Chang and City save a lot of money? Besides, if the city walls were built with cement, they should be stronger, right? Empress Zhongsun said with regret. The predecessor of the Tang Dynasty's capital, Chang'an, was Daxing City built by Yuan Kai in the early Sui dynasty. The Yuanhe County Atlas recorded Sui's camp capital. Yuan Kai had 6 high slopes in the north and south of Vermilion Bird Street, which were the signs of the Qian hexagram. Therefore, he built the palace with 92 to be the residence of the emperor, and established 100 departments with 93 to be the number of gentlemen. He didn't want ordinary people to live there, so he built Xuandu Temple and Xingshan Temple to guard it. It meant to refer to the theory of Zhou Yi's signs and the Qian hexagram's 6 lines to carry out the overall layout design of the capital. In the first year of Wuda, the Tang dynasty was just established. Li Yuan ordered Yan Lai to rebuild the outer city of Chang'an City. The mileage of the Tang dynasty was 360 steps for 1 li and 300 steps for 1 li for 1 li. The big foot was 12 inches and the small foot was 10 inches. At that time, the total length of the outer city walls of Chang'an City had reached about 36 kilometers. This was undoubtedly an unparalleled grand project in that era. Of course, the money spent was also an astronomical figure. Therefore, Empress Zhongsun felt a little regretful when she saw the cement. Ever since the Wei River Alliance last year, Li Er had been worrying about money. Empress Zhongsun was naturally especially sensitive and concerned about saving money. Haha. Now that things have come to this, it's useless to say more. Moreover, no matter how strong the city walls are, they will be useless in the face of a truly strong enemy. The soldiers of the Tang dynasty are the strongest city walls of the Tang dynasty. If the descendants of the future generations fail to live up to expectations and are attacked by foreign soldiers, they can only hide within the city walls. Then, I feel that it's better for the country to perish. My Tang dynasty must have the 4 barbarians submit and all the countries fear. No one will be able to attack Chang'an City anymore. Speaking of the city walls, Li Er suddenly remembered that last year, Xieli and Tuli Khan led 200,000 Turkic soldiers to the Wei River and attacked Chang'an City. At that time, if Xieli was a little braver and attacked Chang'an City recklessly, even if the city walls of Chang'an City were tall and majestic, they would not be able to withstand the attack of these 200,000 soldiers. This made Li Er have a new view of the city walls. It was better to attack forcefully than to defend to the death. This was the difference between Li Er and the emperors of the future generations. If Li Zishuan had time-traveled to the Song dynasty or the Middle to Late Ming dynasty, if he were to create cement again, there was a 90% chance that the emperors of that time would use the cement to strengthen the city walls and defend against foreign enemies. They would increase the defense and ensure their survival. However, what Li Er pursued was completely to use offense as defense. When all the enemies were terrified, naturally, there would be no need for the city walls to defend against foreign enemies. Chapter 490. Rua. In the Gamlu Palace, Empress Zhongsun looked at the lofty and ambitious Li Er. Like a young girl who always liked heroes, a hint of admiration appeared in her eyes. She slowly praised him. Your Majesty's words are true and reasonable. This is the blessing of the Tang Empire's people. Ha 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 ha. Being praised by his own woman, Li Er naturally had reason to be happy. He laughed heartily and said, "Guanyin maid, don't praise me. Otherwise, if I get carried away and make any mistakes in government affairs, Wei Xuanqing will scold me to my face again." As the ruler of a country, he was actually afraid of a subject. Li Er could be considered to be a first. At this time, Li Er was still at the stage where he was working hard to govern. He liked to listen to his subjects' remonstrances. However, Wei Zheng's way of remonstrance was really difficult to accept. Every time Wei Zheng tried to persuade him, Li Er would feel both pain and joy. Empress Zhongsun covered her mouth and laughed. "Your Majesty really knows how to joke. However, if all the cities in the Tang Empire follow your Majesty's strategy of using offense as defense, wouldn't this cement have less use for it?" Li Er touched his stubbled chin and pondered. "That won't happen. The superior performance of cement determines that it will be suitable for many places, such as the official roads." At this point, Li Er became a little high-spirited. He said hopefully, "If all the official roads in the Tang Empire are built with this cement, then the time spent on the road to other places in the future will be greatly reduced. Correspondingly, once a war breaks out somewhere, the Imperial Army can also arrive as soon as possible. Therefore, this cement really has a wide range of uses." "Congratulations, Your Majesty, on finding such a talent." Empress Zhongsun laughed with a double meaning. "Ha ha ha ha." Deep in the Qinling Mountains, countless small groups of soldiers could be vaguely seen searching in different directions and then gathering together every once in a while. This was a small strategy that Dugu Xin came up with. He divided his soldiers into teams of 5 and spread out in different directions to search. They agreed to meet up a few miles ahead. The entire team was like a spider weaving a web, slowly covering the entire Qinling Mountains. This kind of carpet search made it impossible for the mysterious Snake Spirit Mountain to escape. Today was already the 3rd day since the army entered the mountains. In these 3 days, the army would camp at night and continue to search during the day. Everyone suffered greatly. After all, the living environment in the mountains during summer was not good. On the contrary, it was somewhat bad because there were many mosquitoes and poisonous insects. Reporting, General, an evil mountain peak was discovered in the southwest direction. The words Snake Spirit Mountain were written on a stone tablet at the foot of the mountain. Dugu Xin had been paying attention to the state of the army, and it was not an exaggeration to say that they were exhausted. Just as he was wondering if he should bring the army out for a day of rest, he saw a rider galloping over from afar. Then, a soldier dismounted and ran up to him, excitedly saying, "Brother Dugu Xin, you're exhausted. What? Did you find the Snake Spirit Mountain?" Dugu Xin asked excitedly. "Reporting to the general, we found it. I found it." "Ha ha." Dugu Xin laughed loudly, then ordered, "Pass down the order. All teams gather here immediately." "Yes, sir." Half an hour later, the mixed army, formed by the bailiffs of the capital and the imperial guards, gathered together again. There were about 2,000 of them, and under Dugu Xion's order, the army began to move toward the southwest direction. The smart soldiers immediately guessed that their trip into the mountains was about to end, and they all breathed a sigh of relief. After about 3 miles, a mountain shrouded in black fog finally appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The words Snake Spirit Mountain were written on a stone tablet at the foot of the mountain in red. There was no sound of insects or birds on the mountain, and it looked very evil. Dugu Xian made a gesture. The army stopped. Dugu Feiying, who was at the side, said worriedly, "Big brother, there's something strange about this mountain." "Big brother, I'm afraid there's something strange about this mountain. Why don't I bring a team to explore it first?" Dugu Xian frowned and hesitated for a moment before shaking his head. "No. I have a feeling that this mountain is very dangerous. How about this, Feiying? Bring 2 men out of the mountain immediately and return to Chang to report the situation here to His Majesty. If we want to force our way up the mountain, we won't be able to do it. I'm afraid this mountain is really filled with poisonous miasma, like what Li Xiannan said. Yes, big brother. Dugu Feiying cupped his fists and replied. Then, he picked 2 men, mounted his horse, and prepared to leave the mountain to report. Okay. Wait. Dugu Xian suddenly stopped Dugu Feiying. Is there anything else, big brother? When you enter the palace to meet His Majesty, send someone to Yongla Lane and inform Li Xiannan as well. Dugu Xian thought about it and said. Got it, big brother. What? You found the Snake Spirit Mountain? Then why did Dugu Xian send you back? Did you run into some trouble? Ganlu Palace. The morning court had just ended, and Li Er had changed into casual clothes and was about to review some memorials in Ganlu Palace when he heard a servant report that Dugu Feiying was requesting an audience. He quickly let Dugu Feiying in, but he didn't expect to hear such news. Your Majesty is wise. The army has indeed found the Snake Spirit Mountain and is currently stationed at the foot of the mountain. There is indeed a reason why they haven't attacked the mountain yet. Dugu Feiying went forward and explained the situation of the Snake Spirit Mountain to Li Er in detail. After hearing it, Li Er stood up and said without hesitation, Dugu Xian, take another 3,000 Imperial Guards and go support Dugu Xian. You must make 7 cultivators of virtue hand over the assassin. Otherwise, take the army and attack. Yes, sir. Dugu Feiying cupped his fists and replied. Li Er looked at Zhao Song and said, pass down the decree. Order the Imperial Physician Bureau to send 2 Imperial physicians who are experts in detoxification to go with Dugu Feiying. Tell them to find the antidote as soon as possible. Yes, Your Majesty. Ha ha ha. I've finally found these guys who were hiding their heads but showing their tails. Translated by Kyomura. Kyomura. Little brother, please wait for a moment. I'll go with you. Yongla Lane, Li Mansion. When Li Zixuan heard the news from the messenger, he was so excited that he accidentally said the dirty words he learned from watching live broadcasts in his previous life. He had been anxiously waiting for news for the past few days. The messenger soldier was confused, but he still understood the last part. He quickly cupped his fists and said, Yes, sir. Sir. Although Dugu Xian didn't say that he could let Li Zixuan go with him, he couldn't do anything if Li Zixuan made the decision. He was just a small soldier. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.